creator and ruler of the universe, had been found nude and unconscious following his latest suicide attempt. God, who sources say had recently grown far more depressed and withdrawn from humanity than usual, reportedly attempted to hang himself from the base of his motel showerhead after ingesting an unknown quantity of Ambien. Motel sources claim that God's room had been left in a state of disarray, and revealed that they had found a brief note written by the omnipotent deity, saying that the suicide stems from long periods of unhappiness he had been suffering in recent millennia, including the death of his only child, thousands of years of war and genocide, chronic weight gain, and the aftermath of his messy 15,088 BC divorce. Paramedics say the Supreme Being had no pulse when they arrived. The Lord's overdose comes in the wake of several widely publicized previous suicide attempts, including a 1985 incident when the Lord leapt from the Grand Canyon but changed into a bird at the last second and flew to safety.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
Man, my headphones are turned up way too loud there for a minute.
What? I can't hear you. My headphones are too loud.
I said my headphones were too loud there for a minute.
Hold on. Let me turn my headphones down so I can hear what you're saying.
Turn them up. I can't say the rest of that bit from Dave Chappelle because it involves a word that the FCC doesn't allow me to say.
That only some hosts are allowed to say.
Well, I guess we're not them.
Well, I'm allowed to say it, just not on the air, right? So
just 7 words. That's the only. You can say whatever you want, just not those 7 words.
Well, it's the
That's
7
also
words.
not true.
It's the 7 words plus, and like I think one of them we can say, but I don't want to go into that.
Okay.
But there's also like some things we can't say, thanks to the FCC.
Yeah.
Like we can't describe things with the body. In a too descriptive fashion.
It's hard to describe things that you're not allowed to describe.
Right, yeah. It's hard for me to tell you how
can't be
exactly
lewd about it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And appeal to the least common denominator.
And if
Keep
you're,
it anatomical.
yeah, if or
Science.
no, what's the word I'm thinking of? It's your field. It's not medical, but
Nursing.
not anatomical. It's clinical.
Clinical. Yeah.
Keep it clinical, right?
Yeah.
Like I can say penis.
Yep.
On the air, and that's fine, but I can't say the other word.
But don't get any ideas.
Right? You know, I mean,
any
I
other
can
words.
say the other word as long as I'm not referring to the penis.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. There's other weird things like that too. So I don't want to start crossing the line here. I don't
Yeah,
want.
we're
I don't want to.
like, right.
I don't want to get a. I don't want to get a
We're
letter.
already too clinical.
Yeah. I don't want to get a letter from Ian from jail being like, hey,
You're
Captain.
fired.
No, being like, hey, Captain, you can't use this descriptive term or, you know, that kind of a thing. Because, you know, when we do get carried away or we do cross the line prior to his incarceration, that was how he would let us know if we were on the air.
Deliver a note.
He would just
walk in the room.
Walk in the room, put a note in front of you, like, oh, yeah, sorry, dude, my bad.
Now there's a delay in getting the reprimand.
Yep.
But a reprimand nonetheless.
Yes.
So,
Note by mail.
Yeah, I don't want any of that.
You have been fined 1 credit for violation of the verbal morality code.
I did rewatch that, by the way.
Okay.
You and I were talking about this.
Which one was it?
It's the Pizza Hut.
Oh, it's the international version. It's the wrong one.
Yeah.
It's the wrong one.
And as soon as you mentioned that the Pizza Hut versus Taco Bell thing, I'm like, I went and saw this movie in the theaters back in the day. And then when I was watching it with the Pizza Hut, I was like,
this is wrong.
I was like, I thought it was Taco Bell.
It's Taco Bell.
But then they have these like Taco Hut Pizza Bell things now where like it's 2 restaurants in one.
Yeah, the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
Yeah,
they wrote a song about it.
Or they have one here in Keene that's it's a Taco Bell and a KFC.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's more of a thing around here. We don't see the Pizza Hut ones in this area at least.
Well,
but,
the song is about the combination Pizza Hut and Taco Bell.
Yeah.
That much I am of certain.
Pizza Bell Taco Hut.
Either way.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut.
But the international
Kentucky
version.
Fried Chicken and a Pizza Hut.
Oh my
McDonald's.
Can you singing that to the kids?
What's wrong with Nikki? Who put a quarter in her?
Do you guys know that song?
Is it
No.
Is it because you had to do this show 2 days in a row?
Yeah, probably. I'm like, oh.
You're like, is it yesterday or today?
I need to
man?
come up with some fresh material.
Wait, weren't you in the other chair yesterday though?
I was, yeah.
Okay, all right. So we could actually claim
So
that
I'm basically
you're.
like I'm a different person.
We could
basically.
claim that you're your
I'm
own.
third chair, Nikki.
You're
today.
your own twin sister.
So while watching the Taco Bell part, did you catch that it was still Pizza Hut aesthetics
Yes.
in the movie?
Yes. Yeah.
And they just overdubbed.
Yeah. We should tell
language?
people what movie we're talking about.
Oh, if they don't know.
You know?
I
If
don't
you
know.
don't know,
Oh, Nikki doesn't.
Nikki's got to know.
I hate movies.
It's
I don't know.
It's
Demolition
got
Man.
Sandra Bullock, and
That doesn't narrow it
Sly
down for me.
Vester Stallone.
Doesn't narrow it down.
Wesley
and,
Snipes?
Yes, Wesley Pipes, man.
Oh.
Oh wait, no, that's
that's-
Half Baked.
Okay.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, Demolition Man.
Okay, never seen
Dennis
it.
Leary.
Oh my god.
But I think you guys did put that on my list.
It's on the list. It's got to be on the list.
if it's not,
There's a real list too. It's on my phone.
okay, can you bust it out and like bump that bastard up like to I don't know the number 2 spot?
Just make sure you just make sure you watch the one where it's Taco Bell.
So anyway, like I obtained a copy of Demolition Man.
Yes.
And I like Richie Rich and I were talking about it last week, and he's like, make sure you get the
U.S. release.
U.S. release with the Taco Bell mention. And I'm like, how would I know if I have the U.S. release? He's like, because the international release will have the Pizza Hut in it. So there's this place where there's this point in the movie where like, oh no, all
restaurants are Taco Bell.
Are Taco Bell. But in the one that I have, it's like, no, all restaurants are Pizza Hut.
Is that
now.
the only difference, or is that just like how you would know?
That's how you would know.
It's the key
okay.
indicator. There's other editing differences
Yes.
and scenes and that kind of thing, but they're minor for the most part. The movie kind of carries itself the same, at least near as I can tell. But Demolition Man, probably more so than some other movies, like maybe even Idiocracy, like predicted the future.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen Idiocracy.
Yeah. So
Well-
Demolition Man. What did you say?
And part of the reason it came up was because Captain was talking about it on like a Saturday show that I was listening to on my way home from the Sunday show. And he said something about like, Demolition Man got this part of the movie wrong. Or I forget the full
Yeah.
context.
But you were
too.
just watching the wrong version?
No. But I pointed out to he was, but irrelevant.
Turns out I was.
Turns out.
Yeah.
But I pointed out to him like, Demolition Man predicted a future in which guns were outlawed. Like
That's the
there's
part,
no
yeah.
guns in Demolition Man. In the society that was the future society that was created, they did not have firearms.
To be fair to the movie, there were guns. They were just all housed in a museum.
Well, right. I mean, that's
until the bad guy from the past woke up and raided the museum and got all the guns.
but the society didn't have an overbearing police force carrying around assault rifles all over the place.
Yeah.
Because the citizenry was disarmed.
Yeah.
So that was the point that I was making. Like they didn't get the police right. I'm like, well, they got the police right for a disarmed society. You know? In fact, I read an article recently. Okay, quick plug on my podcast yesterday, and it was like police violence in America was at the highest it's ever been for
Right.
police deaths for 2023. Like it exceeded, and one of the proscriptions in the article were like, well, how do we curb American police violence? And the solution given by the article was gun control.
Well, that's stupid.
Right. But they go like, well, because every police encounter is possibly with an overly armed citizenry, right, they're quicker on the trigger than they are in other countries. And if the citizens were disarmed, the police wouldn't have to be that violent all the time.
Yeah.
Because
I
they're not
disagree
always.
with that.
I didn't say I agreed with it. I said this is what the prescription
premise,
of the
right,
article
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And I think that it was a USA Today article, I believe.
Just so you guys know, I made a note here for the show notes. Demolition Man, The Prophecy, Taco Bell Edition.
There you go.
That's the whole note.
So people know that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have some things to do. Captain's Log, Stardate 01212024. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the authentic Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass Buckshot Esquire, if you will, LLC. Joining me tonight.
Nikki.
And Richie Rich. Did you spend the $100 to get that LLC registered? Not yet. Okay.
We'll get on it.
I don't want to give the man any money.
That's fair. I'll accept that.
and so I'm just declaring myself an LLC.
Okay.
Without filling out the paperwork or paying the fee.
Technically, you can do whatever you want.
I mean,
I wrote it down on a piece of paper, so I mean that's all they do. They write it down on a piece of paper.
Understandable, but the LLC itself is a governmental protection.
Well,
so
is it?
Yes, it is.
Or is it a governmental submission?
I mean, you're submitting yourself to them, and in exchange, you're getting their protection.
So it's kind of like a mafia shakedown.
No, because you don't have to register an LLC, but then
you can
open
be a
to
sole
liability.
proprietor,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But if you want their protection,
I've considered putting my business under an LLC for those reasons.
Yeah.
You know,
I
it's
have
nice
had-
if somebody sues you if you don't like lose your house over it or whatever.
Right.
I have had an LLC in the past, just in prep. So like when you're young and you're trying to do music, right? You all of the people who have succeeded in making music their career will tell you luck favors the prepared, right? So if you really want to be successful in music, prepare to be successful. That is, have something called a one sheet. Figure out how to have a bio or a promo kit with you at all times, because you never know when you're going to bump into somebody in the industry who knows somebody or whatever. And then also like form some sort of an entity, whether it's a sole proprietorship or whatever. You know, meet with the band, discuss these things. Whoever's in the band, like
sounds like any business, right? Yeah,
exactly,
just having a basic
Just-
business plan, and
right? All that, but like so many bands do none of this.
Yeah.
Right? They don't think about the business aspect. They don't even think about like how are we going to make money at this? They just go, they make music, they go, they don't get paid for shows, and they're just like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's insane to me to like, you know, that this is what happens. So at any rate, I did an LLC. I had like a PO box that was just for the band.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this kind of a thing,
official.
a mailing address, and you know, stuff like that. I ended up with like an EIN number at some point in case I ever had to like hire somebody to do something for us officially.
Yeah.
file your taxes.
None of that occurred, right? We never even, like, I don't think we ever officially had any income. You know what I mean? Like we'd sell some
Losses
T-shirts.
only.
Yeah, we'd sell some T-shirts or whatever, but we spent way more money.
That's how
than
I
we ever
But now it's a
took in,
write-off.
man.
Yep.
You know?
Net loss. Well, you don't have to really file if you're on. Yeah, I think
Right.
it's what is it like
Yeah.
$300 or something.
Yeah,
but I'm sure if you're operating at a net loss, then you're good to go.
Yeah,
I mean, when I was like ramping up, doing more firearms training,
yeah.
like I did register the LLC because that's a dangerous industry, right?
That's true. Yeah, you want some liability coverage of insurance.
I looked into insurance as well.
Yeah.
I was like, weighing insurance providers because it's a dangerous industry to like work with noobs around firearms.
But I think almost in any industry though, like, because even with me, I mean, I don't really anticipate, like for yoga, for example, I don't anticipate someone suing me, but I mean,
ow, I hurt my back.
Yeah, like it might happen, and insurance is so cheap where it's like, you might as well.
Yeah.
Well, then you
Get
get
some
these.
But this is
sort
someone who
of
could like put a bullet through their hand because
Yeah, that's more serious.
And then you've got these.
and I
Like,
want to be protected.
you've got
Yeah.
these like shisty people who are on the lookout for this kind of thing.
Oh,
they wanna,
yeah.
They
Oh,
want to
yeah,
target like some small business that kind of doesn't know what the hell they're doing, and then sue them.
Yeah.
You know, like take part in it and be like, oh, I hurt myself at your thing, and like I'm going to sue you. It's like grifters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that kind of thing. So if you're one of those people, go after yourself.
Yeah.
But you can protect yourself
that.
against grifters, right? By getting the insurance and
Yeah.
having an actual LLC.
Yeah, the insurance I think is a powerful thing. I just don't like wielding the violence of government at other people.
That's fair.
Granted, in the case of a grifter or a shisty person, I don't know if I could say that. I just did.
Well, why not?
Yeah. Anyway, in
That's
the
not
case
one
of
the
a
words.
in the case of a nefarious person, there we go. That's a much better word. I like that word, nefarious. Then okay, they attacked you first, right? So now
That's self-defense. Yeah.
Now in defense, like am I going to throw the government at you? I that's a decision I have to make at that point.
Yeah, but even in that case, like if you don't have it set up preemptively, you're not going to be able to throw it back at them. Like you're already on the defensive.
Right. Yeah. Yep. So before we get into our first story, let's go to the phones. I believe this is Mr. Ridley from what's the jingle?
It is.
What's the jingle?
RidleyReport.com.
There we go.
That's the important part. You got to do
Okay.
the end part too.
You forgot the
sorry. Forgot the end part.
It's been a while since I've heard.
My gosh, we were only away from Sundays for like 3 weeks.
It's not like we play the jingle every Sunday.
Mr. Ridley, what's on your mind?
So tomorrow, I guess, marks the second anniversary of the outlawing of nuclear weapons.
Boo.
When were nuclear weapons outlawed? 2 years ago?
Correct. The United Nations member states who are not carrying nuclear weapons got together and they technically made it illegal.
So, were these? So all of the nations, the governments that already had nuclear weapons, did they give them up?
Not yet.
Did they place a deadline on them, or was it in effect immediately?
I think it went into effect more or less immediately, but
Okay.
the idea was that there are some sorts of sanctions, but they're kind of limited.
Okay.
I don't really understand how it works. It doesn't seem to have really taken off in the public imagination. Most people don't even know it happened.
Well, much like gun confiscation, if you're going to collect the nuclear weapons, you're going to have nuclear weapons to go get them.
Are there people that have
no.
wearing T-shirts with like a couple of nuclear bombs across each other and says, "Come and take them"?
Well, I've been studying the ban for a while, and I've had difficulty finding anything to really argue against here. They don't seem to have done anything that seems anti-liberty. I guess they call it's nuclearbantreaty.org is where these folks tend to congregate, I guess. And each year as this comes around, it's an excuse to do demonstrations and stuff. And I did one last year. I was visiting Colorado Springs at the time. We did a demonstration downtown, and I'm glad I did it. It's sad that so few people seem to care about the fact that they're maybe about to die, but this is what has actually been happening over the last 2 or 3 years, and it would be nice to see something even better.
What are you saying is not anti? You're saying like not being able to own certain property is not anti-liberty?
Yeah, not letting people own nuclear weapons. I don't have a problem with keeping people from having nuclear weapons.
Okay. And you don't consider that an anti-liberty position?
Well, as long as there's no act of aggression. So the way
Okay.
this will be done without an act of aggression is if you have a government that does not tax people and it decides that you can't have a nuclear weapon and it doesn't use any taxes to take your nuclear weapon from you and it doesn't hurt you in the process, then I can work with that.
So, but if I wanted to keep my nuclear weapon, what then?
Then I think action should be taken against you, but not at taxpayer expense.
Okay. And those actions would not be anti-liberty because they're not taxpayer expense? Like I've harmed no one, but I own this piece of property, and you think quote unquote action should be taken against me? You, sir, are a threat.
It's difficult, yeah, and it falls into a gray area, but yeah. I think
it's not a gray area. You're trying to take my property against my will. You're a threat.
Well, your property is a threat.
My property is not a threat. The existence of my property is not a threat.
A nuclear weapon is inherently a threat.
You could say the same for any sort of firearm or weapon. It's inherently a threat because I can use it on anyone at any time. It's not a threat.
Yeah,
it's a piece of property.
A firearm has a legitimate use. There is no legitimate use for a nuclear weapon.
That's your opinion, and I don't need I don't need to justify ownership of anything to you, Mr. Ridley. It's none of your business.
Yeah, I mean, you could take it off the coast of Portsmouth, 100 miles from any ship and blow it up, and it would still be bad.
Well, then you may have a tortious claim against me, but until I do that, piss off. It's none of your business.
What is it for? It's not for blowing up. Yeah, that's the whole problem.
What's the problem? I own a piece of property. You don't want me to own it, and you're willing to use force to take it from me?
Well,
that's why I have the nuclear weapon, to prevent people like you from stealing my property.
You don't need a nuclear weapon to do something like that.
I don't need a lot of things, but I'll use whatever I need to repel your threat.
Do I get to finish?
Maybe.
Ukraine has no nuclear weapons and is defeating the Soviet Union or is defeating the Russians more or less.
Good for them. This is a principled matter.
previous to that, the Afghans beat the United States, which had nuclear weapons, and they didn't have nuclear weapons. They're not necessary for victory.
It doesn't have anything to do with victory. It has to do with you trying to take my property from me against my will when I've caused no harm and brought no damage to you.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the principle, sir.
Good luck getting anyone to take your side on something like that.
If I had the nuclear weapon, they wouldn't have to take my side. I'd have armed defense against them.
No, if you had a nuclear weapon, you'd have 7 billion people on the planet wanting you to not have the nuclear weapon anymore, and they'd be doing something about it.
And good thing I have the nuclear weapon to prevent them from doing something about it. You're justifying aggression for ownership of property.
Yeah, nuclear weapons do not prevent aggression. When was the last time that happened?
Hiroshima, Nagasaki. I don't know when. I don't know if they've ever been used since then.
Using those nuclear weapons did not prevent aggression.
The entire Cold War could be argued was nuclear weapons preventing aggression.
I'll take that too.
It was nuclear weapons driving the fighting into Nicaragua, Angola, Afghanistan, where massive numbers of people died.
You don't have to fight. You just stop trying to take people's property.
Yeah.
I just went to nuclearbantreaty.org, and the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, the ban treaty, entered into force on January 22nd, 2021. So, yes, indeed. It was the result of more than a decade of organizing by a combination of non-nuclear armed states and civil society, much of it spearheaded by the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, also known as ICAN, recipient of the 2017 Nobel Peace Prize.
And in the world we actually live in, these nuclear weapons are all owned by nation states, which are supposedly our enemies. At least these folks are doing something, but again, if you've got something you can think of, it's better to do. If you've got a better idea...
Leave people alone that have nuclear weapons.
Well, why is it okay for a nation state to own a nuclear weapon and not an individual?
It's not. It's not okay for either.
I would say it's okay for an individual. Like any other tool, any other piece of property.
It'd be like saying a rocket launcher, right?
Fair play.
Can an individual own a rocket launcher?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think they should be able to.
Okay, so what's the difference between a rocket launcher and a nuclear bomb, David?
The size of the blast radius. There's no way you can, even the smallest nuclear weapons have a blast radius. It's
like a suitcase nuke.
It's going to have such a large blast radius that there's simply no discriminate way to use it. Yeah.
I forget what it was called, but one of my coworkers who was in some branch of the military showed me this website where you could test different, it was a simulation, of course, but you could test different nuclear weapons, and you could say, oh, I want to drop this nuke on Boston. And then you could see the radius, the blast radius of it. And then you could see, because of course, you have the initial blast radius, and then, everything is destroyed within a certain radius. But then there's also like the radiation that goes beyond that. Right. So it was actually rather interesting. You could see like what the effects, how widespread the effects would be.
And until I detonate the nuke, I've harmed no one.
David, do you have more to say?
And should not be threatened.
No? Yes? All right. Well, thanks for the call, David. RidleyReport.com.
Got fascist all of a sudden.
More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government. The real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. The Florida governor has endorsed his rival, former U.S. President Donald Trump, for office. Ron DeSantis made the announcement in a video released on X, previously known as Twitter.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge.
The Florida governor had been trying and failing to appeal to two opposing groups of Republicans, those who supported the former president as well as those who disapproved of him. He came in second in Iowa but trailed far behind Mr. Trump, and he was expected to come third in New Hampshire. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley is now the last Republican standing between Donald Trump and his hopes of running for president. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy and not just against the U.S.
The world is standing up and saying they won't tolerate that.
Speaking on ABC's This Week, White House Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner said while the U.S. had taken retaliatory actions, diplomatic steps are also being taken, which include the UN's condemnation of the attacks. Feiner also noted Saturday's missile attack by Iran-backed militants against an American airbase in western Iraq. He said the White House will have further comment, although he repeated the Pentagon claim that many, if not most, of the missiles were shot down before they reached the base. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. It comes following her treatment for breast cancer, and she is the third member of the British royal family who is suffering from ill health. The Princess of Wales is recovering from abdominal surgery at the London clinic, while her father-in-law, King Charles, is preparing to be treated for an enlarged prostate. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
Well, Princess Catherine is said to be doing well. We do expect that she will stay in hospital for around a week longer, and then we're told that she may well not be able to carry out any royal duties until around Easter. The King will have that procedure on his enlarged prostate in the coming days as well. We know that here in the UK that's led to a huge surge in searches online about prostate conditions, so some health groups have been saying that this has already helped raise awareness of some of the conditions that men can suffer related to their prostate. But it also means that for now the King is not taking part in royal duties and engagements either, though we expect him to be back at work rather more quickly than Princess Catherine will be. But it does mean that out of the 4 senior royals at the moment, William and Catherine and Charles and Camilla, it is only the Queen who is currently.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. With fees of less than a penny per transaction, Dash is made for spending. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol and in multi-crypto wallets. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month for this sponsorship. It's easy to get and easy to use Dash. You can learn more at dash.org. That's dash.org. All right. So, I want to talk about this bit. As a free speech absolutist.
Okay.
Right? With the exception of adhering to these FCC rules here on the radio.
That's just because you don't like fines.
Well, it's not my show, right?
Yeah.
So like,
And that.
I was invited to join the show under the condition that, I don't get the show, ixnayed from the airwaves, right?
A.
Yeah.
Yeah. A. From the airwaves A, right?
Yeah, whatever.
And so I continue to operate under those conditions. But as a person, I am a free speech absolutist. And if you talk to me outside of this radio program, you can tell. There's really no bones about it. I've been known to cuss in front of small children and get bad looks like, "Hey, my kids are here." I'm like, so?
Yeah.
Did anything happen to them because I said a bad word? No. Did it harm them in any way, shape? No. So, shut up.
Those
That's
kids grow up with
something-
the projection of the parents, man.
Yeah.
Like if the parents had no bad energy on bad words,
Yeah.
it wouldn't even matter.
Right.
Absolutely. And that's something I've never understood is why some words are bad and some aren't. I get try to be nice, try to be polite, don't be mean unnecessarily, teaching, nice manners and stuff like that to your kids. But why are certain words, how come once I turn 16 years old, then it's now you can start saying bad words all of a sudden.
The term came out in, I think it was the 80s was the first time I heard it, which is don't be butthurt about that.
Okay.
Right? It's oh, you got your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Right? Is hurt feelings because of words harm?
No.
If
Not
I
the
say
hurt
something
feelings.
to you that really digs deep and, it hits you personally, right? Have I caused you harm? We've talked about fighting words in the past.
That's really the other person's problem, right? So, if you said something to me that offended me,
Yep.
that's my problem. That's not your problem. And that's something that it's my responsibility to deal with my feelings about the words that you said. That's not your responsibility to deal with my feelings about what you said to me, technically.
Here's the other interesting thing about that. If Captain says something to you and your feelings are hurt, it's because internally you believe it to be true.
Usually, I would say that's not across the board, but usually. Yeah.
Because if he said something to you that was false, that you didn't believe about yourself, you wouldn't have your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
It was just okay, that he said a thing.
Yeah.
I don't care. You say whatever thing you want.
Yeah.
I don't believe that about myself, so you saying it has no effect on me.
Yeah, that's why the good disses are the ones that, it's if you're really trying to be mean about somebody, you go for, their
weak spots.
Yeah, their weak
stuff
spots
that they've already complained about in the past that they've internalized as a problem in their life.
Yeah.
So,
but being nice is cooler, so there's that.
So
not as much fun between dudes, though.
When it comes to the words and phrasings or whatever the FCC rules, right?
Yes.
There is no evidence specifically around cuss words. There's no evidence to support that saying cuss words has ever harmed anyone.
Of course not. No.
Yeah.
Whether
I
they're
would
little
say
kids or
it
adults
does
or
the
whatever.
opposite. I like it, so.
So it doesn't harm them.
It's doing the opposite of harm to me personally.
It does good for them? How does it do good?
Because I told you I like them.
It
So it does good for
desensitizes
me
them for hurt feelings.
personally. I don't care about really what it does for everybody else, but for me personally, whatever. I like using them.
Because when I was a kid, my parental units of many varieties were very anti cussing.
And I bet that made you like it more because they were anti.
Oh, whenever I wasn't around them, if I was hanging out with my friends or at school, I was cussing like a trucker.
Because it made it cooler in your mind.
Because when you're a kid, you want to be an adult. Right?
Exactly.
And they're only adults can use those words. And, and you're like, what kind of BS is that?
Yeah.
So
all my friends used them.
Yeah. So me and all my friends, we're cussing up a storm at every chance that we can. And then, whenever the parental units got over their whatever it is, whatever this mystery ailment is that makes people think that cuss words are going to harm children in some way, I don't even know where that comes from.
The cuss words. There's legitimate verbal abuse, I think, that can be inflicted upon children. I don't think that that's okay, but I wouldn't involve cuss words.
Right. Saying
in
a cuss
that.
word is not verbal abuse.
No,
right?
it's not.
it can be part of verbal abuse if you're
Could
being
be.
verbally abused and somebody
But it's
is
two
cussing
different things.
during. But it's totally
Well, who's it directed at?
right.
Like
Yeah.
if you're cussing while saying something out in the open,
Right.
right? You're not directing that abuse at the child.
Right. And
If you go, you child, you are and then you unload on them, right? Then that might have some sort of effect.
there's a pretty great band called Psycho Stick,
Mm-hmm.
and they have a song called NSFW, which stands for Not Safe for Work.
Okay.
The song is the F word over and over again, but to different melodies that you're already familiar with.
Ah.
Right? And it changes over the course of the song. It's the most brilliant song, maybe not the most brilliant song they have, but like it is an outstanding track from this particular band. And if you haven't heard it, I suggest you go listen to it.
Unless you have sensitive ears.
Yeah. Now, I was describing this song amongst a table of folks who met up on a Sunday, that kind of a thing. And one of the persons at the table, because I was actually singing it out loud, like giving an example, right?
Yeah.
Like, blah, 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 F, 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 F,
Oh, were
F.
you scolded?
I was scolded by somebody at the table, a libertarian type person.
Get over it.
They're like, hey, Captain, there's children
like
around here.
An old lady?
No, it was Mark Edge. Of
Really?
all people.
Way to put him on blast.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Like, to his credit, there were children around, right? But who
cares?
We're outdoors.
Yeah.
We're outdoor, and like
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
My reaction was, "Oh, sorry," and then I'm like, "Wait a minute, I'm not sorry."
Yeah.
Right? And I think I
that's
said, "Wait a minute, I'm not effing sorry." I think is what I said at some point or whatever. I did discontinue my impersonation of the song because I had made my point already to the audience I was talking to, or the people I was talking to. But I mean, that's, Mark and I are of about the same age. And so, like, we've both had that experience where the elders are like, hey, now, don't be, watch your language, right? Don't be cussing around the children now. And like,
Mark's also got a youngin'.
He does.
He does.
I don't think he's not that young anymore.
But
4 years ago when this happened or whatever, right?
Yeah. I bet he uses bad words.
Mark?
I learned it from you,
No,
Dad.
his son.
Yeah. I've heard Mark
learned it from
cuss.
you.
Yeah, Mark has been known to cuss.
We listened to it a couple of weeks ago.
We've heard a replay recently. I'm not here trying to talk bad about Mark. But what I am saying is that, like, again, there's no evidence that cussing in and of itself has ever harmed anyone. And the fact that there is a government agency dedicated to policing cussing on broadcast, television, radio, etc., right? Should be all you need to know.
Avert your sensitive ears.
Yeah. So.
Can't say that on PBS.
Now, over the course of time, governments, particularly the leaders of governments, whether it's a Congress, a president, a dictator, a monarch, or whatever, they have all attempted to make certain speech illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is a whole big segue?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a very, very long segue.
Well played, Captain.
Yeah. We'll call it the prequel.
Okay.
The prequel.
This is the prequel to the article.
Okay.
Phantom Menace,
yes.
if you will.
Yeah, and we didn't make them in reverse order. We made the first one first, and
okay.
Now we're segueing into the second one. So over the course of time, governments, people in charge of governments, kings, monarchs, whatever, have attempted to make certain things you say illegal, which to me is a bunch of horse hockey, or, the other word I wanted to say.
Yep.
But that's the one you can say on air.
Right. So this from CNN.com. Thailand sentences man to a record 50 years in prison for insulting the monarchy.
Wow.
Can you imagine, like, there are certain things that you cannot say in the United States.
I'm not saying he's a bad king. He just looks like a queen.
There are certain
50
things.
years.
There are certain things you cannot say in the United States without drawing the ire of law enforcement. One of them is, like, sort of any threat about making a threat against, like, a president.
Yeah.
Right. Like if like I can't even say the quote that will get you in trouble here on the air because we're already in trouble on this show
trouble,
anyway.
Unless you're already the sitting president, as noted by Donald Trump recently.
But
maybe like the president's wife or something could get away with saying, threatening the president in this way. Okay. But like if you threaten the life of the president, like you're going to get the ire of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Right. And that's a law that exists here in the United States. Now, in the United States, we still have some semblance of free speech, right? As evidenced by this show, right?
Yeah.
If we didn't, this show would be in jail. Yeah, this show would be the first thing they took off the air. Yeah. Right. And now they've tried.
And actually, like it is
but not in the
not
directly, right?
Yeah.
They didn't come on and be like, "You guys are speaking too much truth. We're shutting you down." They didn't do that. They went sort of around. It's kind of like
the roundabout way.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they got Capone for tax evasion, right?
Yeah, it's like this is the best we got.
Yeah.
But that's kind of part. That's kind of part of American culture is talking trash about the opposing political candidate, right? Like, imagine if that was an actual law in the United States. It's like they wouldn't even have campaigns,
right?
Because that's the whole thing. Is just
trash
it's like
talking your opponent.
Yeah, it's like I can't talk about what I'm gonna do because I have nothing of value to offer as a politician. So I'm just gonna talk smack about the other guy.
Well, but smack talking, right, and like direct
threatening,
right?
But this is insulting.
This is insulting the monarchy specifically.
Because I would think insulting is not threatening. Like, threatening violence against somebody is different than insulting them. I mean,
I can't tell you how many times I've been like, Trump sucks, Biden sucks, Clinton sucks, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, there's like toilet paper with Obama's face on it.
Oh, we used to have some of that.
You know what I mean? Or like all of it. Like, insert political candidate here. They got it.
We had, who was the president before Obama? Clinton? Was it Clinton?
Bush.
Oh, Bush. Yeah. So we had toilet paper rolls of both Bush and Obama, and this was like right at the election.
Yeah,
right after.
Well, that's just equality, right?
And so my band was playing a show, and there's this song where the lyric is "Two candidates is one more than a dictatorship." Right, is one of the lyrics of the song, and so my singer thought it'd be a good idea. He bought this mask that was Bush on one side and Obama on the other.
Nice.
And so he wore it while he sang this song. And then during the song, there's this little, like, we didn't really do solos. Like, we like, but we did, like, whole band, like, breakdowns.
Yeah.
And so there's this bit where the singer doesn't sing. And so he was
jamming,
like, he was like, okay, so for the part where y'all break down, I'm going to chuck rolls of toilet paper at the crowd
That's
with
nice.
varying Obama/Bush faces on them into the crowd. And it was great.
That reminds me of Guar. How they would put like Donald Trump, obviously not real Donald Trump, but how they have, all of their prop actor people and the fake blood and everything.
Burned in effigy.
Yes.
I think there was one where they had Donald Trump and Joe Biden on the stage, and they beheaded them both.
Yeah, they've been known to do that.
It was really cool.
They did that with what was the lady's name? Nuclear. You know who I'm talking about?
No,
can't say Sarah
nuclear.
Palin.
That's one.
No. Well,
yeah,
but that's Bush. But yeah, also Sarah Palin.
Right. They had
nuclear.
Yeah, no, they decapitated Sarah Palin like on stage. Right now, it wasn't
again,
her.
Equality.
Obviously,
you know what I mean? Feminism.
In effigy.
Definitely. In effigy. Yeah.
Yeah, beheading people in real life is not cool.
Well, it depends who it is.
I mean, like, I'm not going to go out and do this, but if somebody brought out a guillotine and decided to start offing heads of certain politicians, I'm not going to shed a tear.
No comment.
I might even clap softly.
Softly.
Bravo.
I'd be like, dude,
bravo.
I'd be like, really that happened? Send me the link. Right? Is there a YouTube on it? What's going on? Is it on TikTok yet?
Live Leak. It'll be on Live Leak.
Live Leak, yeah.
That's the one.
Or do you think like they'd have to upload it to like Pornhub or something just to get around all the algorithms and the oppression of the
I'm pretty sure that's where Live Leak was. That was the stuff you would find on Live Leak.
Okay.
Back in the day.
All right. Because I know like at some point they were releasing these pirated movies and uploading them to Pornhub.
Yep.
Because they could, and then everybody could just go watch them. Yeah.
I had a friend who was part of like Toastmasters.
Oh.
And at one point, like, he tasked me with, he's like, find me some of those like Iraqi beheading videos because I want to intersplice that in to my Toastmasters speech.
I hate that.
Can you tell people what Toastmasters is? So it's not somebody who's really good at burning bread.
Yeah, I guess it's an organization to help people overcome their fear of public speaking.
Yeah.
Or to practice their public speaking if they're already a public speaker.
Right.
So you go up in front of the group, you have a topic, and you give a speech, and then the group rates, critiques, criticizes, roasts, but also helps you improve on your tactics in your speech and ways to improve it. So.
All right, very well. So from CNN, a Thai appeals court on Thursday extended a man's prison sentence to a record 50 years for insulting the monarchy.
Extended. So he was already...
I'm
already in prison. I'm going to talk more trash.
They're like, yes, well, you shouldn't have said that because now your sentence is longer.
Okay.
Pray we do not alter the deal any further.
Oh, yeah, okay. Vader.
That's right. In what is believed to be the toughest penalty ever imposed under the country's draconian lèse-majesté law, according to a legal rights group. Mongol, age 30, an online clothes vendor and political activist from northern Chiang Rai province, was originally sentenced in 2023 to 28 years in prison for social media posts deemed damaging to the king.
Is there a link? Like, do we know what he said?
There's not a hyperlink here.
I can't speak Thai, so
yeah.
They have funny characters.
There's the button on Facebook that says translate post. You can click the button.
I can only eat Thai.
Okay. How's she taste?
Oh, God.
Spicy?
5 stars.
5 stars.
On Thursday, the Court of Appeal in Chiang Rai found Mongol guilty of about a dozen more violations of the Royal Insult Law. It's called the Royal Insult Law.
Terrible.
I mean, like, how much of a baby do you have to be like, no one's allowed to say mean things about
I'm
me.
royally
It's like King Jong-un, like the North Korea, like, don't say anything. Like, that guy's a god, right? You need a framed picture of him in your living room. Better not say anything bad about that guy. I can, though, because I'm in America, so...
So they found him guilty of a dozen more violations of the Royal Butthurt Insult Law.
Wow, a dozen more. So he just went off again.
I mean, you might as well. I mean, you know what I mean?
And they added 22 years to his sentence. Thai lawyers for human rights said in a statement, Thailand has some of the world's strictest of these royal butthurt laws, and criticizing the king, queen, or heir apparent can lead to a maximum 15-year prison sentence for each offense.
Whoa.
Which makes even talking about the royal family fraught with risk.
The problem with stuff like this is, like, people who love America will then say, look, you shouldn't insult our government because it could be this much worse if you were over there.
No,
the grass is always greener on the other plantation.
You should keep insulting our government because you can.
Well, until they start passing laws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also a huge red flag if to make a law saying that no one can say can criticize you or say anything bad about you. You might be worried. You must be worried that people are going to do that. If you're such a good and benevolent ruler and this great king, then you wouldn't need to pass laws like that. Everyone would love you and they would only be singing your praises.
Well, and to an extent too, like when you put yourself out there, whether it's as a radio host or as a politician, right? You're in the public now.
Yep.
And you're going to get haters. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you do, right? You're just going to get them. I mean, and like some people will be like, man, if you don't have haters, you're doing it wrong, right?
I'm doing it wrong.
Oh, you don't have haters?
Haters
they don't come after me.
Okay.
Sad.
Maybe it's the beard.
Could be.
Intimidating. Perhaps it's the firearms.
Maybe.
Perhaps a combination.
I mean, I can take a good old-fashioned insult.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I mean, there's trolls in some of these chats that, that talk about the show and whatever, and they'll take photos of us, clip them from our video feeds, and, turn them into ugly people or whatever, and like make fun of us or whatever. And
but none of that has ever crossed my desk.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to see it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's kind of flattering, right? It's wow, this person cares about me so much that they just did this
I feel
thing.
so unloved and unhated at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once a week is not enough. Got to troll the trolls more often.
Sentences for those convicted under Section 112 of Thailand's Criminal Code or Royal Butthurt Law can be decades long, and hundreds of people have been prosecuted in recent years.
Wow.
Hundreds of people. I didn't know this. Mongol, also known as Boosbas, I guess that's a nickname or something, was arrested in April 2021 over 27 posts he made on Facebook during March and April that year. I think we talked about this when it happened.
Okay.
We were like, man in Thailand arrested for Facebook posts or something. So this is the fallout of this. A criminal court found him guilty of 14 violations of the Royal Butthurt Law and sentenced him in January 2023 to 28 years. It is not clear what the content of the posts contained.
Because Facebook took him down? All right.
Presumably. I don't know. The appeal court on Thursday not only upheld Mongol's earlier conviction, but in addition found him guilty in 11 of the 13 cases that the lower court had earlier dismissed.
What? So he tried to appeal it and they threw more charges at him?
This is what you get for wasting the court's time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They found him guilty in 11 of the 13 cases the lower court had earlier dismissed, and thus imposed the longer sentence.
So he didn't even do more, technically. This was just from before.
Yeah. So
Apparently.
They sentenced him to 28 years. He appealed it. They were like, no, and also we're going to sentence you to more, and because the things that were dismissed were undismissing.
What a raw deal.
Yeah, that sucks. Because at
For
least...
a freaking Facebook post, or a series of them.
Yeah.
Like, my God, man.
Just went on a diatribe.
This world is insane, man. Right? Like, here's the thing about free speech. It lets you know where all the a-holes are.
Yep.
Right? And if you don't know where all the a-holes are, then that crap goes underground.
But there are
and it festers and boils.
There are people in the United States that want to curb free speech as it is. And I'm sure that if given the power,
those people are dumb.
I got it. But if given the power and they start passing laws like this, right? There is no amendment unattainable that cannot be restricted.
And that's why I keep saying, too, in some ways, a show like this that's on, I don't know, 200 or so radio stations in syndication.
Canary in the coal mine?
Canary in the coal mine, yeah. Because when something like this goes away, you should become very worried.
Yep.
And we know the feds listen to this program. We have factual evidence of that. So they're listening.
Hi.
Hopefully they're learning, too.
Hopefully. Take some notes.
Yeah, 603-283-6160. Do you think people should be imprisoned for 50 years for insulting politicians or making social media posts about it? Give us a call. Let us know. It's Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is coming up. Don't go anywhere.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project early movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next, after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. The Florida governor has endorsed his rival, former U.S. President Donald Trump, for office. Ron DeSantis made the announcement in a video released on X, previously known as Twitter.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge.
The Florida governor had been trying and failing to appeal to two opposing groups of Republicans, those who supported the former president as well as those who disapproved of him. He came in second in Iowa but trailed far behind Mr. Trump, and he was expected to come third in New Hampshire. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley is now the last Republican standing between Donald Trump and his hopes of running for president. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy and not just against the U.S.
The world is standing up and saying they won't tolerate that.
Speaking on ABC's This Week, White House Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner said while the U.S. had taken retaliatory actions, diplomatic steps are also being taken, which include the UN's condemnation of the attacks. Feiner also noted Saturday's missile attack by Iran-backed militants against an American airbase in western Iraq. He said the White House will have further comment, although he repeated the Pentagon claim that many, if not most, of the missiles were shot down before they reached the base. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. It comes following her treatment for breast cancer, and she is the third member of the British royal family who is suffering from ill health. The Princess of Wales is recovering from abdominal surgery at the London clinic, while her father-in-law, King Charles, is preparing to be treated for an enlarged prostate. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
Well, Princess Catherine is said to be doing well. We do expect that she will stay in hospital for around a week longer, and then we're told that she may well not be able to carry out any royal duties until around Easter. The King will have that procedure on his enlarged prostate in the coming days as well. We know that here in the UK that's led to a huge surge in searches online about prostate conditions, so some health groups have been saying that this has already helped raise awareness of some of the conditions that men can suffer related to their prostate. But it also means that for now the King is not taking part in royal duties and engagements either, though we expect him to be back at work rather more quickly than Princess Catherine will be. But it does mean that out of the 4 senior royals at the moment, William and Catherine and Charles and Camilla, it is only the Queen who is currently taking on royal engagement.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at fresh attempts by the United States this week to try and advance a diplomatic settlement to the crisis in the Middle East. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is spending a full week in the region. He'll visit Israel for the 5th time since the Hamas attacks of October the 7th, and is also travelling to Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia and Egypt as well. Carla Ann Robbins, with America's Council on Foreign Relations, says the agenda has expanded following Israel's assassination last week of a senior Hamas official in Lebanon.
Well, U.S. officials have been saying that they didn't think that the Israelis would do a strike in Beirut if they thought this was going to spark a full-out war. But what has been a really horrifying war in Gaza and Israel could now be spinning out of control. When we first heard of Secretary of State Blinken's visit to the region, and this is going to be, as you said, his 5th to Israel and his 4th around the region since the war started, We really thought it was going to be primarily focused on urging the Israelis to reel back the war in Gaza. And now it seems to have a much wider agenda, trying to stop the conflict from spinning out of control.
That, of course, is precisely not where anyone wanted to find themselves at the beginning of this year, and it comes at a time when Iranian-backed Houthi rebels are making life very dangerous and tense in the Red Sea, targeting vessels and disrupting commercial tankers that they believe may have ties to Israel. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy. And Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. And that is the latest from Feature Story.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. It's really not creepy to have little kids mindlessly recite this anthem every day and pledge their life to a government before they're old enough to really think about what they're saying. This is not a form of brainwashing. This is really the greatest country in the whole world. All the other countries suck. And if this country ever goes to war, as it's often wants to do, I promise to help go and kill all the other countries' kids. God bless GE. God bless Citigroup. Amen.
Very good, kids. Now come and get your Ritalin.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
You do the California version?
And we're back.
Or the other.
And we're back.
There we go. Yeah, that's where you go. And we're back. It's almost like you're asking a question. Yeah. It is Free Talk Live. If you're new to listening to this program, you can find out all about us over at freetalklive.com. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
We have things to talk about.
Sure do.
We should probably talk about them then.
We probably should. But before we do, before we do, Free Talk Live is brought to you by Forkfest with a capital F. Happening June 13th through 16th at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Forkfest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Forkfest is decentralized, so there is no ticket cost, and no one is in charge. For more information and to connect with other attendees, you can visit the unofficial website, forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. I'll be there. Come hang out. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. It was fun last year. It was fun last year. Although, to be fair, Nikki, I think between the two of us, we were responsible for a large portion of fun.
Probably.
You were responsible for a larger portion than I was, but
yeah, I brought like 100 people there.
You did. And I was the only sort of musical act of Forkfest.
Yeah.
I mean, there were other people that had like, you know, the acoustic guitar on the campfire, kumbaya stuff,
whatever.
Right? That kind of thing. But like,
yeah, but you had like a whole rock show.
I had like large speakers that could blow in the whole campground if I and I'd like barely. I used maybe I turned them up to like 2.
Yeah.
But they go up to 11.
They do, and then like another campsite like a little further up from where ours was. After the thing was done, she was like, are you guys going to be doing that every day? Because, like, you know.
Yeah, eye roll.
Like, whatever.
No, Karen.
It's like, yeah.
You're like, I wasn't going to, but now I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway,
now that
fun.
you mention it.
Yeah.
There's going to be all
for a
sorts
nominal
of,
fee.
Like,
I'll stop.
Like, I don't even necessarily have anything planned. I was going to try and do something for the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yeah.
But they saw fit to ban me from their chat room.
Really?
Because I posted
Why?
a link to my music video for It's Time, which is...
And they banned you?
Which was made at, for, and by people at the Porcupine Freedom Festival.
Yeah, which is probably why you posted it in that chat, correct?
Yeah, I posted it in the PorcFest attendees chat.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And they banned you?
Drama ensued.
That's why they're Porkfest now.
Drama ensued.
Yeah, and they are.
And they were like, well, yeah, okay, the chat's probably not appropriately named. It's really supposed to be about stuff that's this coming PorkFest. And I'm like, well,
So?
I was planning on playing live I was gonna try and get some of my friends' bands from Seattle to fly out or something like that. Or I know this all female AC/DC tribute band I was gonna try to get come out.
AC?
Oh, they're called Hell's Bells.
Okay.
Yeah, you've told me about them before.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, not to just rip on PorkFest, because I'll be there and,
No,
whatever.
I'll be there too. I'm just saying
I'll
that,
rip on them anyway.
I was going to plan
Yeah.
something for the Porcupine Freedom Festival, but no, I'm
Yeah.
not.
Well, my point is there's a bunch of different PorkFest chats on like Signal, Telegram, whatever.
Yes.
And they're all for very specific things. And if you talk about the wrong thing in the wrong chat, you'll get banned. And they have like
Which is what happened to me,
whole-
because I'm not really that active in the PorkFest chats or whatever.
No, so and me either. So I posted something, and it was like within seconds they had their mods. The mods came and deleted my comment, and I was scolded.
To be fair,
and I'm like, come on, like they're taking it a little too seriously.
To be fair,
they got power, and it's going to their heads.
Yeah.
To be fair, I didn't get banned like immediately. It wasn't until after
it was a thing.
A friend of mine, a friend of ours, somebody also, they heard about they just took it down, right, and or moved it to another room instead of letting people see it or whatever. And I complained, and then somebody else heard about it, and they're like, "Well, I'll post it there too." And so they posted it. So in essence, they were kind of being trolled after they took it down and told me I couldn't post it there.
As they should be.
And then, not only was I, but this other person was removed from that particular chat as well.
Yeah, it's just a little too fascist.
And I'm just like, where else? Like if your chat room is inappropriately named, change the name of the chat room.
Yeah, I have a lot of criticisms about, and really it is. So I go to a lot of festivals, and I have a lot of complaints about all of them. Usually I'm going to music festivals, right? Yeah. So it's Live Nation that is ruining the music festivals for me, with the cashless and the threats and the security and the clear backpacks and all the security theater, whatever. So in a greater context, like compared to all of the majority of the festivals I'm going to, PorkFest is very chill,
and
awesome,
like
such a good time, laid back.
Agreed.
But compared to what PorkFest used to be and how chill and laid back it used to be, now it seems like the people that are running it sometimes go a little too far. Like, I get trying to keep the peace and, whatever, like be professional and coordinate stuff, but they don't have to have such a tight grip on, like, PorkFest will just naturally happen. And you don't, like, they're acting like it's this huge stressful thing, and it's like, yeah, because you're making it this huge stressful thing. If you just chilled out a little bit,
libertarians, man, big fish, small pond.
But
it's just so ironic.
But
it's
to
like,
your
oh
point,
my
this
God.
is why Forkfest with a capital F exists, right?
True that.
Forkfest is it is a fork off of this. It's trying to be the more free version, the less. The less oppressive, I don't know what to say.
And thus far successful because no one's in charge.
Right,
that's
exactly.
the point, right?
There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
organizer.
yeah.
Right. So that being said, if you're coming to Forkfest, don't expect to just be a spectator. You can certainly do that. I would prefer, if you're coming to Forkfest, that you plan an event.
Yeah, and you can even do that at PorkFest too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can do both.
Just don't do it in the chat room.
And likely,
do it in the correct chat room.
Oh,
yeah.
like myself and the same person as last year will be at the same site. We'll have the same big ass tent that we did. I'll probably have the same bar that
Poker
I had
table.
there last year. Yeah, that kind of a thing. So that will likely be what I don't I haven't really planned anything out in advance. But if I think of something more creative, or if I think of something we can do even within that, right, that could still happen. So mark your calendars. It is fun. I had the best time last year. I really did.
Well, that was your first Pork Fest, right? Because you usually just do Fork Fest with an
It
F.
was my first full one. Okay. So, like, previously I did, Fork Fest or a couple of days of Pork Fest and then Fork Fest. But, this past year, I went for both for the entire time. I think it was 10 or 11 days or whatever it was. I stayed the whole entire time. And great fun. Mm-hmm. Great fun. Oh, my God. And I met so many awesome people that, I met people that, I had heard of. And they had heard of me, but we had never physically met, in meet space or whatever, Mm-hmm. So that was a lot of fun, too. Is like, oh, you're the captain. Oh, you're so-and-so. Yeah. Oh, okay, great.
And there are a lot of people that come to Pork Fest every year from out of state. So, of course, we have, our core, New Hampshire people that you might see at meetups and whatever, people you see several times throughout the year. But then there's also I only see you once a year at this thing.
Right.
So it's always really fun and exciting to see those friends as well.
Like a family reunion of sorts.
Totally, it totally feels
like that. It's got that vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We should probably take some calls. Let's go to Tim in Florida. Tim, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey guys, if I was listening to Dave Ridley, that was him talking about nuclear weapons, correct?
And stealing property from the rightful owner, yes.
Yeah, that was Ridley and Richie Rich in that discussion.
Yeah, so it's funny that conversation came up because I think it was last night, a THC-induced, I was imagining a scenario where everyone had a nuclear weapon in the world.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And basically, is that more frightening? So the thing is, if one nuclear weapon exists, if one nation, one person has one nuclear weapon, there exists the possibility of a nuclear detonation. So my question is, if everyone has a nuclear weapon, is the probability of nuclear detonation more likely, or is it exactly the same?
I would say more likely. Because you're going to have an irresponsible nuclear weapon owner who gets stoned or has a THC epiphany and stumbles around and presses the button, and you'll have a negligent discharge of a nuclear weapon. And at that point, damage has been done, and he ought to be held somehow responsible posthumously. But until such time, just leave people alone to own the property that they've rightfully acquired, even if it's a nuclear weapon.
Like, in my mind, the nuclear weapon that's a large bullet, right? So, whatever you say about nuclear weapons must be consistent with what your thoughts are on owning firearms.
Or property. It's just property.
It is just property.
I don't even have to link it to firearms. I could own a nuclear weapon or a radio.
Or a tank.
Or a water bottle.
Right.
And it's mine.
Right.
And if you try and take it from me, you're the enemy.
Right. That's wrong. Right. You're in the wrong.
I'm not going to kill thousands of people with this water bottle, but I could bash someone over the head with it. So it's a danger. It's a threat. Right. But as long as I don't, you ought leave me alone.
Well, so here's so what Dave Ridley, I think, failed to. I'm thinking of a word here and I can't think of it, but basically what he failed to describe was the difference. And I'm not saying I agree or disagree with Ridley or you, but I think what he was trying to describe was there are certain weapons that have no legitimate use. Now, your argument would be that in an unused state, you would still have the right to own it. And I understand your argument from that perspective.
Yeah, I don't have to justify my ownership to anybody as legitimate or illegitimate. It is mine.
Right, but so in the case of a normal firearm or even an automatic firearm, there are scenarios where you could say, I'm using this as self-defense without the intent of creating a civilian casualty. But in the case of a nuclear weapon, I think Ridley's argument, and he can correct me at some future point, would be that you're going to have civilian casualties. It's a guarantee, and that's the difference. And that so it's not you cannot precisely, a bullet can be precise if you're a good marksman, right?
If you're still comparing it to other weapons rather than just a piece of property.
Well, and also, I don't think technically it wouldn't be like guaranteed other casualties if you don't detonate it.
Well,
like if he just has it and he's like, I just like this thing and I like to look at it.
Well, and they tested the atomic bomb out in the desert, right? There are places where you can detonate these things without bringing harm to anybody,
Well,
and
that
it's
might
been
be
done.
up for debate, but
Fair enough.
In the desert?
Fair enough.
I mean radiation, whatever.
I hear you.
But yeah,
Okay.
as far as
And
we
I
know,
understand
yeah.
your argument. Well, I understand your argument as possessing it, or I didn't even think of basically a testing range where there were no
Because I don't have to justify it. That's the difference.
Right.
I don't need your judgment to tell me whether or not I'm allowed to own something, right? It's none of your business. It is mine,
And I understand
and if
your
you try to
argument,
take it from me, then you're the threat. You are the enemy.
But so Ridley was basically coming back to a concept that already exists in law, and I can't remember what the classification is, but it's basically TNT, for example, certain
Dynamite,
explosives, right? It legally speaking, and you can say it's wrong or it's right, but legally speaking, it's on a level of destruction that they say, well, you need a license and you need a reason to use it. Like if you're using it to build a road or something.
And that is an abridgment of freedom. That is an abridgment of an individual's liberty to tell them that they need permission and justification to own a piece of property. That's anti-freedom. That's anti-liberty.
Because from my perspective, how would that be different than being like, well, you need this license to have a gun
or anything,
or a suppressor,
or
whatever.
a toaster, Daryl.
Yeah, I hear you.
It doesn't matter. I don't care what the item is. If you tell me I can't own a thing, like you are the threat, you are the anti-freedom, you are the anti-liberty message in that debate.
And I don't really have anything to add, or I don't have a counter argument. Actually, with you, Richard, there was one other issue I did want to bring up, and that was involving you had 3 bets with Ricky from the Commonwealth, and one of those bets I think you put yourself into a situation where nobody can win the bet.
Okay,
and that was
hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, he's bringing up the bet.
I wrote a note down.
Itinerary.
This is real.
I wrote a note down.
Yeah.
I wrote a note down and I sent this to Peakless and he didn't respond to me. So this is my understanding of the bet.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, I need someone to correct me so I can correct my note.
Okay.
This is the bet with Ricky for anyone listening. By the middle of 2025, the national average for gas will meet or exceed $10 per gallon. By the end of 2025, the value of the U.S. dollar will equal 0. By the end of 2026, the United States is a third world country. Each of these criteria, we are betting 5-. So I'm going to put 15- into escrow with Peakless, and Ricky is going to put 15- into escrow with Peakless by the beginning of 2025. And each one of those criteria is a 5- bet. Now, which one of those did you think won't have a winner?
So the problem is the second bet. Can you repeat the second bet?
The value of the U.S. dollar equals 0.
0 what?
Oh, right.
Okay. Well, 0, like the purchasing power is 0. You can't buy anything with the U.S. dollar.
So the cash certificate, the U.S. dollar, you can't buy anything. It's just another piece of paper.
That would be fair. Yeah, that would be fair. So if you can absolutely buy nothing with it, then you could say it's worth 0 of anything. Right. I can't really see that ever being provable.
Well, that's why I took the bet.
So
because if I can buy anything with $1, I win the bet.
Okay, so you're on the opposite side of those statements.
Right. So if the national average for gas meets or exceeds $10 per gallon, Ricky wins.
Okay.
If the value of the U.S. dollar equals 0,
I thought it was the other way around.
No. Ricky wins.
Okay.
If the United States is a third world country, Ricky wins. If none of those criteria are met, I win the bet.
We'll see.
Or individually, I can win like one or two and lose the third or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Clear as mud?
I mean, if you could spend $100 to buy a loaf of bread, then you could quantify $1. And
that's why I took the bet.
You wouldn't be able to say it was zero. It would be a
I fully
fraction.
intend to win that portion of the bet.
Yeah.
That might have been the first one I agreed to because of how easy it's going to be to win.
The gas one's a little bit up in the air. I'm like, I'm actually not sure about that one.
$10 a gallon?
Maybe.
Maybe.
We'll see.
We'll see. Well, that's
it's already close in California. It's like 7.
Well, national average.
National average. Oh, yeah, you're right. We'll see.
We'll see.
I think there's going to be a lot of like ducks and other birds in parks who go hungry because now the the stale heel of the bread loaf is it's like $1 or something, just for the heel.
Ugh.
Anything else?
Yeah. So when I was in middle school, there was a cartoon on Nickelodeon called Doug.
I have all of those on my hard drive somewhere.
Okay. And do you
Patty
remember
Mayonnaise.
Doug's best friend's name was Skeeter?
It was.
Oh, I forgot about that.
God.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
And the bully was Roger.
That's good. Oh no, but that's
Well, the second time I've heard Skeeter in my life was on this show. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I remember his first call. I think it was a couple years ago. I'm not sure.
Was he calling a couple years ago?
I don't know. It might have been a year and a half ago. But I've talked to him in chat, and we've had some interesting conversations in chat, one-on-one. Whether or not it makes good radio is a different question. But
have you been converted to what is it?
It's your boy.
Evolutionary capitalism.
You had to say it.
I had to go through the
progression.
The shtick. Yeah.
Well, so I guess it was yesterday, and I'm not actually giving him a hard time. I just thought it gave me a chuckle yesterday. Your guest said something about autism, and he said that people with Asperger's were the how do you put it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he said something that was a little
selected. So my version of it is Asperger's, the chosen people in the autistic religion of evolutionary capitalism, right?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, he would probably say that. He's admitted to being like on the spectrum.
No, yeah, that's what he was saying yesterday.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know what he said, but
he's an Aspie. He's an autist.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is.
Clearly.
Like a 2-hour conversation with that dude myself. I could have a 2-hour conversation with him because I've run.
I'm going to assume you're also on the spectrum then.
No, I'm not saying that. I think a lot of people throw the spectrum term around loosely without,
I agree with that. Yeah, it seems like everybody has autism nowadays. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people that I interact with legitimately do, but it's like nowadays it's like, insert anything here, you're even slightly neurodivergent, and it's like, I have autism.
But Scooter has admitted it, and I don't know how anybody not on the spectrum could have a 2-hour conversation with that guy.
Well, it's like Judaism, it's an identity. That's all.
Okay. I couldn't talk for 2 hours with a Jew about Judaism either. Like I do not have that in me.
Well, see, it's not that far off.
I could talk to him about brisket though, man.
Okay.
Like
I thought they didn't like brisket.
Jewish people?
Isn't it?
They make a hell of a brisket.
Oh, right, that's cow. Sorry, I'm getting my animals mixed up.
Just don't have a ham sandwich with them.
Yeah. That's the thing.
And like I just like brisket. Like I like.
How could they have such good delis and not have ham?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
As long as it's delicious, that's all I care about.
Okay. But you can have that conversation with anybody, though.
That's true.
If it's about brisket, right? It doesn't matter if you're on the
Jewish
spectrum or not.
moms, I'm remembering they do stereotypically make good brisket.
And I would just want to quiz them about their recipe and their prep techniques and how they make it so damn delicious.
Okay. Fair enough.
So one last thought before I drop off the line here. So one of the conversations I was having with Skeeter in the chat was actually, he was criticizing Mises, and I've actually read some Mises, and the irony is he basically says, I debunked all of Mises theorems.
All right, hang on, dude. Hang on. More Free Talk Live is coming up. We'll see if we can figure out what the heck Tim was trying to say here. 603-283-6160.
There is no such thing as attention span, according to Jerry Seinfeld, who figures that people have an infinite attention span if you are entertaining them. Hey, he's kept us from channel surfing for several decades, and now he's making more millions as a Las Vegas headliner. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important, especially if you're looking for work. So choose every single word as though it was the last word the person you're speaking to will hear. Otherwise, it might be. Avoid redundancies such as added bonus, advance warning, end result, prior history, or personal belongings. And avoid cliches like the plague. Just kidding. For more tips, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. The Florida governor has endorsed his rival, former U.S. President Donald Trump, for office. Ron DeSantis made the announcement in a video released on X, previously known as Twitter.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge.
The Florida governor had been trying and failing to appeal to two opposing groups of Republicans, those who supported the former president as well as those who disapproved of him. He came in second in Iowa but trailed far behind Mr. Trump, and he was expected to come third in New Hampshire. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley is now the last Republican standing between Donald Trump and his hopes of running for president. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy and not just against the U.S.
The world is standing up and saying they won't tolerate that.
Speaking on ABC's This Week, White House Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner said while the U.S. had taken retaliatory actions, diplomatic steps are also being taken, which include the UN's condemnation of the attacks. Feiner also noted Saturday's missile attack by Iran-backed militants against an American airbase in western Iraq. He said the White House will have further comment, although he repeated the Pentagon claim that many, if not most, of the missiles were shot down before they reached the base. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. It comes following her treatment for breast cancer, and she is the third member of the British royal family who is suffering from ill health. The Princess of Wales is recovering from abdominal surgery at the London clinic, while her father-in-law, King Charles, is preparing to be treated for an enlarged prostate. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
Well, Princess Catherine is said to be doing well. We do expect that she will stay in hospital for around a week longer, and then we're told that she may well not be able to carry out any royal duties until around Easter. The King will have that procedure on his enlarged prostate in the coming days as well. We know that here in the UK that's led to a huge surge in searches online about prostate conditions, so some health groups have been saying that this has already helped raise awareness of some of the conditions that men can suffer related to their prostate. But it also means that for now the King is not taking part in royal duties and engagements either, though we expect him to be back at work rather more quickly than Princess Catherine will be. But it does mean that out of the 4 senior royals at the moment, William and Catherine and Charles and Camilla, it is only the Queen who is currently.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
And we're back.
Nice. Excellent delivery.
Thank you.
Might be one of your better ones.
It's been saved up for months.
Yeah.
It's my first solo shot in a long time.
He's been practicing.
Yeah. Do you, on the way to the studio, do you practice in the car?
No, but I mean, it's also,
You get your reps in just to.
It's also how I intro my podcast because it's my shtick.
Yeah.
So it's a once a week thing for me regardless.
Yeah. I like the group version, but that's just
fine.
my personal preference on that one. Although after having seen the thing with which inspired you for this shtick, it has a different meaning now than it did previously. But either way, it is Free Talk Live. The telephone number here is 603-283-6160. We've got some callers on hold. We'll get to those momentarily. In the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Nikki,
and Richie Rich.
Let's bring Tim back on because he was trying to say something, and the bumper music was kicking in, and he didn't get to finish his thought. And I'm not sure anybody heard him. So go ahead, Tim.
That's okay. I'll wrap this up because I'm sure Skeeter is waiting on the line. And I'm not insulting the dude, but I just wanted to bring up the fact that in one of our chat conversations, which at some point the whole thing got cleared and I didn't have a chance to save it or ever respond to him again, but he had basically dismissed Ludwig von Mises as a crackpot and, I've debunked Ludwig von Mises, just like he debunks everything because he says so.
Right.
But then at a later date on the radio, he used the same exact logic as Ludwig von Mises.
And what was that?
Justify the government, which is the sole purpose of protecting, check this out, the anarchistic state of the market. And so my point being is that he contradicts himself all the time, and I don't think he realizes it.
So I will say this about Scooter as well then. Even if he were right, like let's give him the benefit of the doubt that he has debunked all these things. He's the preeminent evolutionary capitalist. Evolutionary capitalism is the way of the future. Like, we'll grant him all that. He is such a terrible communicator of his own ideas that it will not take off anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, Marx was better because at least you still have Marxists out there. And those ideas were crap, but they persist. Scooter's ideas might be good, but he himself, the man, is such a terrible messenger of his own message that he will have no followers.
I thought he just didn't understand it, but you're right. Maybe he just doesn't know how to, articulate
I don't think
it.
he understands it, but even if he's right, he can't articulate it properly enough to get anyone else on board.
All right. Anything else, Tim?
No, that's it for now. We can address this at a future point.
Hey, man, we appreciate you listening, and thanks for the call, man. 603-283-6160. Let's go over here to Ricky from the Commonwealth. Ricky, you're on Free Talk Live.
Thank you there, Brother Captain. Brother Richie. Sister Nikki, good evening.
Good evening.
Yep.
Well, I got so much stuff tonight, But I did want to say, last night you said about how to best describe Free Talk Live, and I have to admit, Captain, after about 1,400 phone calls, and anybody that has heard any of my calls throughout 2017, the best way to describe Free Talk Live is Free Talk Live.
Well, aren't you the greatest communicator of that idea as well?
It's in the name, man.
Somebody had to do it, damn it, Richie. I couldn't resist, and it's the truth. And Brother Ian's genius will never be surpassed, no doubt. But a couple things come to mind, actually. Now, hopefully I can get into the gist of my call, but, Brother Tim, I got to thank you. See, a drug-induced genius will also not be surpassed because you got Richie talking. And that being said, I do want to clarify something. Just so we have the bet ironclad, yes, it is 5 dash per bet. That was Rich's brilliant idea. Because it's all about the money. And then you have, I actually said July for the first bet, that it will go to $10. And I may have gotten a little high, but hell with it.
All right.
Richie needs the money.
Got high? No.
So July 2025, the national average for gas.
Damn it, Captain, I am come New Hampshire, and I am going to bring my campaign manager with me, and we will definitely get far out, and I will take you down the rabbit hole.
That's a euphemism now? We're going to hang out with the campaign manager.
I'm changing my notes. July 2025, national average for gas meets or exceeds $10 a gallon.
Right. Now, here's the rest of it. And I'm glad Brother Tim got this out there. Now, the rest of it is I'm going to talk to Brother Jay. He may have some insight, or for that matter, Peakless. I do think you're right, Richie. The best way to look at it is the damn thing will not be usable. Now, by the end of 2025. Now, here's the key. Here's where you made a mistake. It gets even better. Because I didn't say by the end of 2026. I said by the end of the first quarter of 2026 for the third bet.
Okay. I'll amend it. End of first quarter 2026. The United States is a third world country.
Now, the question is, Richie, does that make you feel better or worse about that particular bet?
I'm indifferent. I think I'm going to win all three. I just wanted to get the language. I wanted to get the language right, so that when I submit this to Peakless officially, that we're all on the same page. So July 2025 national average for gas.
Richie,
what's that?
In all honesty, Richie, you may want to possibly listen to the Thursday night of the morning that Saudi Arabia and Egypt joined BRICS. Because I talked to Brother Ian that night, and I went through my analysis. You may want to take a listen to that.
The Thursday night Free Talk Live show.
Correct.
Where you
Saudi
talked
Arabia,
about what happened that morning with Saudi Arabia.
If you think you're going to get me to back out of any of these bets, you are mistaken.
Did you hear that, Ricky?
You know what it is? I was ashamed that it took me so long, but I explained that it was the BRICS alliance, and it was all a plan since Great Britain left the EU to protect the pound sterling. That wasn't even a lie, but you might want to take a listen to that, Richie. Now, the fact of the matter
just make sure you have your 15 dash to Peakless at the agreed upon time.
Well, I did say I'll have that at the beginning of 2025, and I'm a man of my word.
And I've got that in the notes as well.
Thank you very much, Ricky from the Commonwealth. You make it very happy. Now, on to other things. It's funny. You're talking tonight, Captain, about cursing. And one thing about Ricky from the Commonwealth, his mouth is quite pleasantly, casually filthy on a regular basis. And you know what's funny?
He's also eaten some 5-star Thai food.
Huh?
I said you've also eaten some 5-star Thai food. You got to be careful with the sausage in those.
I probably have. But the fact of the matter is, when I was campaigning in 2017, I didn't, curb my language. And the funny thing I find out, Captain, is, you talk about yourself around people, and I've done it. I talk around people, and I don't think about this, as any words, because to me, I think of a special word. Any word that you can use in place of all the other words has to be special. And I use that word very casually, but very rarely. I don't know about you, Captain, but I'm sure you will agree that very rarely, except in jest, do I use that word at somebody.
Yeah, I've been in a situation where I'm in a grocery store and I'm looking at a glass jar of pickles, and it slipped out of my hand and broke all over the floor.
I thought it was going to be when they asked if you wanted to make a donation.
No, I meant you're not going to say it at a person, not at a jar of pickles. I'm saying,
No, but I'm just saying, it was crowded. There's lots of people around, kids included, and I just go, oh, F. Right? And, pretty loudly.
You say, F Richie.
Yeah, directed towards.
You're not going to say that except in jest.
No, that's not necessarily true. Whenever Steve Classic and I went to, and another person went to view midget wrestling, there was a lady there who was claiming that Mr. Classic was a big liar, fat liar person or whatever. And I set her straight, and she was
she deserved it.
She was like, blah, blah, blah. She didn't care that we were in the right and we had the evidence to prove it, and she just kept insulting him. And I stood up for my friend, and I'm like, hey, F you. Yeah. To her, I even flipped her. I even flipped her the bird. I'm like, "Hey, F you!" And somebody from the background was like,
the other day.
Somebody from the background was like, "Oh, what? An event promoter didn't give you the right seat? Say it isn't so, right?" Talking to her, right? So anyway, go ahead.
Well, I will say that I also you may find this interesting. I think you get what I'm saying anyways. Generally speaking, it's in jest. I may even say it to you at some point, Captain. That probably will happen. It'll be in jest.
I will greet my friends. Hey, you old effer, or something like that.
I think in those cases, it's in jest.
Yeah.
Well, I use son of a bitch myself, and I know I can say that on the radio.
You just did.
No doubt, no doubt. Hey, speaking of that, Richie even lets me know that I can say that Kevin McCarthy is a pussy. Well, I want to inform everybody. I just heard on the news today, the newest member of the Kevin McCarthy is a pussy club. That would be Ron DeSantis or DeSantis or whatever the hell his name is now. It's really damn pathetic. What the hell is wrong with these people? I really don't get it.
They're politicians to start.
They're politicians. They're power hungry. They're generally narcissistic, and they want to rule over you.
But they have no dignity.
You got to give that up to become a politician, man.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. I do. Richie, you are incorrect. I am Ricky from the Commonwealth. I will say.
Are you now?
I will say that you're wrong.
You don't say. Go on.
I am, no doubt.
Go on. Politicians with dignity.
But back on the cursing. I mean, I have to admit, the people I meet on an everyday basis, I will say, generally speaking, because I look at myself and I put myself out there as the ultimate example of a Pennsylvanian. I mean, I eat like one, I talk like one. I very much am a throwback. But the fact of the matter is the people that I meet every day, the other members of the Commonwealth, they curse very casually. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is every now and then you will meet a jackass that'll say, hey, what you're saying is disrespectful to who? I said, like, to who? I said, well, it doesn't sound very intelligent. And I point out that, let me explain something to you. I have an IQ of 171, and this is the way I talk, and I really do not have any interest in putting forth thought expenditure to change the way I speak for you. And that's where I will say that word in manner to a person, and I have just recently.
You should just tell them that your language meets your audience where they are. Right?
Well, that's the thing, because I look at Trump's rallies, and he'll say a little curse word. No, believe me, anybody that knows me and will talk to me, and if you're around me for 5 minutes, I promise you, this is how I talk, and I don't plan to talk any different. Now, one of the things I do on the air, and I have done it, I've done my whole spiel about the Civil War where I'll rip through it in like a minute or so.
Yeah, let's not get into
Now, I have to admit, when I'm
like a real Pennsylvanian.
Absolutely. And that's what I do when I'm out and about.
No doubt, Brother Richie.
Because I like to use humor. In all honesty, when I get to the part of where, the Union soldiers come down and say, get the hell out, I don't use that word. And then when I say about 1872 and the Reconstruction, and I use the word over, I use another word. And this is the way I talk. And I've never heard anybody ever say I'm offended.
Okay.
All right.
And I think the thing with language is I find these people are very pompous people, and they want to say, oh, well, you're not very smart if you do that. Well, I disagree with that.
Actually, Ricky, there's been studies done that shows that, and correlation isn't always causation, but there have been studies that suggest that more intelligent people tend to swear more.
Yep.
They're usually more honest, better friends. Like, there are a lot of positive qualities that come with people who swear more often.
Yep.
And I totally agree with you there, Nicky, because that's been my experience. The people that I find that are saying, oh, you have to watch your language, what are they trying to prove, and who the hell are they trying to prove it to? That's the big question. It sure as hell isn't me.
My boss confuses new hires because he won't even say asphalt.
Oh.
It's your own asphalt.
Richie, now you got to get dumped. See that, Richie?
Why do I have to get dumped?
It was bound to happen, wasn't it?
The word asphalt is okay.
What was it?
Asphalt.
Asphalt. See, Richie, I got Richie. You know what? I love you, jackass me or pleasant. You got me. But the question is,
how did I get you? That's what they paved the roads with. That's a word.
Well, it is asphalt.
I know.
What would be wrong with it?
My boss won't say that, so he gets all the new hires to say asphalt with the SH.
Asphalt.
Right.
Why?
Because he won't say asphalt. Because he doesn't swear. No,
he doesn't just have a speech impediment or something?
No, he just won't say the word.
Will he
It's
say
too
the
close.
word jackass? Now, that's one of my favorite words, and that's not even really a dirty word. I don't believe so.
No, it's not.
Right. Will he say that?
No,
Why?
because he does not curse. He does not
No
say those
bad
languages.
words.
No bad words.
But the bigger question is he generally pompous?
Generally pompous.
Yeah, is he generally pompous when he's around? Is he generally a pompous son of a bitch?
I'm going to say no. Like I don't find him to be pompous, but in the grand scheme of things, right? Like based on the intellect of those who use that language, he is where he should be on that spectrum.
Well, that you know what, and he probably is. You see, because I agree with Nikki. My exposure, because I've been around a lot of people, artists and musicians and things of that, and writers and people that have high intellect. And I will agree with her, just like myself. They curse up a storm, and you know what? I mean, I've never been around Brother Ian, but I bet you his mouth is plenty filthy. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I have heard him curse from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, my favorite word is jackass. Jackass is one of next to that other word I can't say on the air.
If it's your favorite word, why don't you change your name?
Well, no, I am going to change my name to Ricky from the Commonwealth. I'm not going to change it to that. You could Donald J. Trump. He already got it. The J does stand for jackass, and that was the third thing I want to talk about.
If jackass is your favorite word, why don't you change your name to Jackass from the Commonwealth?
In a moment, because I am definitely not. I am Ricky from the Commonwealth.
All right.
But if you had changed your name, then you would be.
Well, actually, the favorite word is the big word that I can't say on the air because I'll get dumped.
How about Ricky the Jackass from the Commonwealth?
That's his wrestling name.
No,
That's his wrestling name?
It doesn't have the same flow as the others.
All right,
But
all right.
one thing that,
Get to your
speaking of
third thing,
jackasses-
Ricky. You've occupied a whole lot of airtime here.
Oh, come on now, Captain. But there's one important thing I did want to mention. It's funny. It was back in June, I believe. Brother Ian, I brought up about Donald J. Trump. And I said how he got these documents and why he wanted them so bad.
The J is for
because
jackass?
He's going to use them because he wanted to sell them. And he says, "Oh, Ricky, you're wrong." Now it turns out that guess what? He stole nuclear secrets. Ricky from the Commonwealth isn't very wrong, and I don't know if I feel so safe about our bet there, Richie.
Well, if you don't feel safe, back out now.
No,
I'm not backing out. You're not going to get me to back out.
I think we need to make this escrow thing happen soon.
The official rule is by the beginning of next year he'll have it to Peakless.
Well, Richie likes that because he likes the idea of me waiting longer because the money in Dash will go up. Anyways, I got to set up.
You can buy it now. You can
stuff.
buy it whenever you want. You just have to have it in escrow by the beginning of next year. It would behoove you to buy it now if you think it's going to go up.
What do you mean by escrow? How do you mean by that?
We're both entrusting 15 dash to Peakless Mountaineer.
Right. Escrow is just a term that he borrowed from real
agree
estate.
With the bet. I do. I will give my word on the bet right now.
Yeah. And in
that's
order
a
to
given.
assure that payment is made, you're going to give 15 dash to Peakless Mountaineer in trust. I'm going to give 15 dash to Peakless Mountaineer in trust. At the conclusion of each time period of the bet, Peakless will redistribute the dash to the winner of the bet.
All right, and I guess the deal is that we have that. Is that to be in Peakless's hand by the beginning of 2025?
That's what I wrote down. I thought that's what we agreed to.
All right, you can give Peakless my word. A finer you can't.
Well, I don't have. You don't have to give him your word. You just give him the dash. Right. That's how we overcome this.
Well, the thing is, Richie, you're a learning experience for me because I have to learn about Dash. And I don't think it should be very hard because I'm going to use the Dash wallet and, I'm just going to get somebody to take a damn picture. Oh, by the way, Captain, just for the record, to make it easier, is there any particular exchange that you would recommend that I could buy Dash from? I mean, I don't care about taking a picture. I'll get somebody to do it for me in my ID.
I don't really recommend exchanges, but
he's in Pennsylvania. It's going to be more difficult for him.
I don't know what the hell I'm doing. A little bit.
I could name a few, but I don't want to give them any free advertising.
Oh, well, that sucks.
Coinbase is the big one.
Coinbase is the big one.
You can probably trust them.
Crypto.com,
they do a lot of advertising.
They do a lot of advertising. So
There's two.
All right. Well, I won't eat up the air anymore. And it's an honor any time I ever go on the show and make a call and talk to people like yourselves.
Ricky, we appreciate you listening and calling. Have a good night, sir. 603-283-6160.
That was a good Ricky call. That was pretty funny.
For Ricky, yeah. No doubt, Sister Nikki.
Yeah.
I'm getting
now every time he says no doubt, I just have a picture of like Gwen Stefani that just pops in my head.
Walking in the spider webs.
Yeah.
Leave a message and I'll call you back.
That's the one. Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the one.
She's just a girl.
Is she? Just a girl?
Yeah.
Or is she a talented girl?
Ooh.
It's not in the song, so.
Well, I don't really know much about Gwen Stefani other than she's hot.
Okay.
At least
That's
was,
enough.
Or at least was. I haven't.
She's
seen her
also
recently.
not a
I think she's still
hollaback girl.
hot. Yeah, she's not a hollaback girl.
Just a girl, but not a hollaback girl.
Yeah.
Her back is not hollow?
It's not a hollaback.
Yeah. I forget what that means because I haven't heard the song in a while.
It's
But
holler back.
Holla.
Holla
Yeah, holler.
with an A. It's not a hard R.
Like holla.
no hard R.
No hard R's here on Free Talk Live. And it's Elma Fudd. I'm driving in my car.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
You turn on the radio. You ever hear Elmer Fudd do that song?
No.
He basically speaks this song. Is it a Linda Ronstadt song? It's called Fire.
Okay.
Right? But he does it all at Elma Fudd.
Okay.
And it's hilarious.
All right.
Dr. Demento. Yeah, that's right. If you guys don't know who Dr. Demento is, and no, Dr. Demento didn't pay me to say anything about this, but
he should.
He still does a show, drdemento.com. It's not on the radio anymore, right? So that gives him some leeway with all sorts of things. Like
should invite him to call in a Free Talk Live.
He can play more things with, cuss words in it, for example, on his show because it's internet only now. So if you're still a fan, or if you want to become a fan, drdemento.com. Because that's where Weird Al got his start. I wouldn't do parody music if it wasn't for Dr. Demento.
So that's where you got your start as well, right?
Well,
isn't that what that?
To my knowledge, he hasn't played any of my music on his show.
Oh, you mean okay? I misunderstood you. I thought like that's where Weird Al got his inspiration. Yes.
No, Weird Al got airplay from
That's
Dr.
cool.
Demento because Dr. Demento had a niche show on the radio.
Yeah.
Where he would play what he likes to call novelty music.
Yeah.
Right? Music
that's a good way to describe Weird Al, I suppose.
Yeah. And the Dr. Demento show, period. And if you do subscribe to his show, he does the thing where like he lets you have access to the archives.
Ooh.
So if you remember, like I do, being a kid in 1985 or something and listening to the show, you can go find the exact show
Really?
where you heard this one song that you haven't
awesome.
heard since that show or whatever. Right?
Oh,
So you can,
the nostalgia.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
And so, he went ahead and recorded all of his shows, and they're available to you. And
I'm
I think
surprised that
that's
was even
pretty awesome.
possible.
Well,
tries to retain the rights.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Also, he has an incredible collection of like vinyl, of albums and cassettes and CDs and all that kind of stuff. So, 603-283-6160. Still to come, our number 2 story.
Number 2 story?
Plus more of your calls and some other fun stuff. It's the Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live. Don't go anywhere. More is coming up.
Free Talk Live.
So that's what government does, right? It's a tool of force. It's a coercive monopoly. It's a violent monopoly. And whoever's in charge gets to wield it for their benefit. They get to promote their views and force them down the throat of everybody else. They get to extract money from everybody and use it to benefit their friends.
Let's outlaw democracy instead of outlawing Islam.
That would make more sense. Outlawing government would make more sense than trying to ban people from coming to what at one time was the greatest plot of land on the entire earth. I don't know if it can make that. I don't know if it can make that claim anymore.
But the evidence is that it cannot claim to be the freest, economically freest country in earth. Because all you have to do is look at the Conservative Heritage Foundation's numbers, and you can go to freetheworld.com. Look there too. The fact is, the United States, not the freest country in the world. Sorry.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern at freetalklive.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. The Florida governor has endorsed his rival, former U.S. President Donald Trump, for office. Ron DeSantis made the announcement in a video released on X, previously known as Twitter.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge.
The Florida governor had been trying and failing to appeal to two opposing groups of Republicans, those who supported the former president as well as those who disapproved of him. He came in second in Iowa but trailed far behind Mr. Trump, and he was expected to come third in New Hampshire. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley is now the last Republican standing between Donald Trump and his hopes of running for president. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy and not just against the U.S.
The world is standing up and saying they won't tolerate that.
Speaking on ABC's This Week, White House Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner said while the U.S. had taken retaliatory actions, diplomatic steps are also being taken, which include the UN's condemnation of the attacks. Feiner also noted Saturday's missile attack by Iran-backed militants against an American airbase in western Iraq. He said the White House will have further comment, although he repeated the Pentagon claim that many, if not most, of the missiles were shot down before they reached the base. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. It comes following her treatment for breast cancer, and she is the third member of the British royal family who is suffering from ill health. The Princess of Wales is recovering from abdominal surgery at the London clinic, while her father-in-law, King Charles, is preparing to be treated for an enlarged prostate. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
Well, Princess Catherine is said to be doing well. We do expect that she will stay in hospital for around a week longer, and then we're told that she may well not be able to carry out any royal duties until around Easter. The King will have that procedure on his enlarged prostate in the coming days as well. We know that here in the UK that's led to a huge surge in searches online about prostate conditions, so some health groups have been saying that this has already helped raise awareness of some of the conditions that men can suffer related to their prostate. But it also means that for now the King is not taking part in royal duties and engagements either, though we expect him to be back at work rather more quickly than Princess Catherine will be. But it does mean that out of the 4 senior royals at the moment, William and Catherine and Charles and Camilla, it is only the Queen who is currently taking on royal engagement.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking today at fresh attempts by the United States this week to try and advance a diplomatic settlement to the crisis in the Middle East. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is spending a full week in the region. He'll visit Israel for the 5th time since the Hamas attacks of October the 7th, and is also travelling to Turkey, Greece, Jordan, Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia and Egypt as well. Carla Ann Robbins with America's Council on Foreign Relations says the agenda has expanded following Israel's assassination last week of a senior Hamas official in Lebanon.
Well, U.S. officials have been saying that they didn't think that the Israelis would do a strike in Beirut if they thought this was going to spark a full-out war. But what has been a really horrifying war in Gaza and Israel could now be spinning out of control. When we first heard of Secretary of State Blinken's visit to the region, and this is going to be, as you said, his fifth to Israel and his fourth around the region since the war started, we really thought it was going to be primarily focused on urging the Israelis to reel back the war in Gaza. And now it seems to have a much wider agenda, trying to stop the conflict from spinning out of control.
That, of course, is precisely not where anyone wanted to find themselves at the beginning of this year, and it comes at a time when Iranian-backed Houthi rebels are making life very dangerous and tense in the Red Sea, targeting vessels and disrupting commercial tankers that they believe may have ties to Israel. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main headlines again. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy. And Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. And that is the latest from Feature Story.
This is the Onion Week in Review. In a landmark 5-4 decision issued this Wednesday, the Supreme Court ruled to allow Americans to cram cash directly into politicians' mouths. The ruling, which effectively eradicates former prohibitions against stuffing checks and stacks of $100 bills straight down the throats, ears, and other orifices of presidential and congressional candidates, is expected to fundamentally alter the ways American politicians have large quantities of money shoved right into their bodies.
In football music news this week, the 1985 Chicago Bears reunite to record their first new material since the Super Bowl Shuffle. The group says the new material will be darker and more introspective than its Shuffle-era work.
And in this week's op-ed pages, a man asks why, if God exists, doesn't he throw us like a really sweet party? In other news, an increasing number of men feel pressure to accept realistic standards of female beauty. FedEx confirms that more than 600,000 people try to mail themselves each year. And a recovering alcoholic doesn't need friends to have a good time.
This is the Onion News Network.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
You guys are like, and we're back. I'm like, and we're back.
Well, I was trying to do the high pitch. I went, and.
Maybe you just weren't listening to the rest of the choir.
I'm sorry, what? Maybe I wasn't really listening, but you see, I don't speak for the sake of speaking. Well, sometimes I do, I guess.
Just reach over and shake her kombucha. That'll teach her.
The kombucha mushroom people sitting around all day?
What?
This is Free Talk Live.
Just going to move on.
We're a live call-in radio program where you can call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. You
Have we even given out the number? I feel like we didn't give out the number at all. We still
I've
got
given
callers.
it, in fact, right before the break.
Are you even listening to the rest of the choir?
No. What?
Hey, are you guys even listening to the rest of the choir?
What?
I just want to know.
What?
All right. The telephone number is
603-283-6160.
Very nice.
Glad someone's paying attention.
In the studio today, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
Let's get this one out of the way. Who can it be now?
Libertarians, come out and play. Hello, neurotypicals.
He's making a
It's your
reference
boy.
to the Warriors.
That's a great movie.
And also,
Can you dig it?
Also, Twisted Sister did
I
a
have seen
take
that
on
movie.
that. Did a
That's the
take on
same
that
movie.
for their
I know.
their follow-up album where they did Twisted Sister.
that's
come out and
that
play.
movie, I think that movie encompasses what happens when you have anarchy, isn't it? Or The Purge, right?
Does it?
No,
Hey,
have you even
sounds like
seen
your
The
boy
Purge?
Ridley.
The Purge is
Have
a
you-
government program.
Yeah, the Purge is
kidding, man.
specifically government.
I understand.
It's specifically a government program, and because people weren't purging, the government created false flags by sending out government agents to purge to get people in the mood for purging. Like, it's a totally government program. It's the exact opposite of anarchy.
Relax, homie. I was just joking. Dang. I understand libertarianism. I'm just, trying to poke and prod. I do. That's why I debunked Mises. But sounds like your
So
boy
we've heard.
too,
But it sounds like you didn't, though.
I didn't understand.
Do you know what the word debunk means?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Give us the definition.
Disprove or invalidate an argument. How about that? Okay.
How have you debunked Mises?
By laughing, cackling.
First, this is what I called about, but so you gotta let me get to it.
I don't have to let you do anything, sir.
Well, if you have integrity, if your show is really Free Talk Live of free market
you've
of
gotten
ideas,
plenty of
you have to,
airtime, my friend. You don't get to produce the show. You're lucky I even let you
you're
on.
highly censored, and I never get to what I want to talk about. But
everybody else does because
you're a
they're
terrible
not
caller.
super annoying.
So one thing is because I get interrupted so much. No one can give a lecture while they're being interrupted. But
you're not supposed to give a lecture. This is a conversation.
It's not called Lecture Talk Live.
Would you be patient with me? I got Asperger's.
So we've heard.
We've been way more than patient with you, sir.
But I wanted to call about contradiction because you guys make so many of them, and so does the Austrian school because you're building all. Oops. Now when I was queuing that up.
Please.
You want to hear a contradiction real quick?
Are you going to talk again and contradict yourself?
No.
Oh.
It's you, Rich. I got a clip of you. Okay, ready? It's just a quick, funny one.
Does it work? You can absolutely apply numerical value to it if that were my goal. That is not my goal, and it doesn't have to be my goal.
Oh, my God.
I do not have to own property for the sheer benefit of profit.
Well, how is that a contradiction?
You don't think about anything but money? Of course I
No, I'm Richie Rich. That's all I think about.
Okay.
Right.
How do you explain that?
I really only think about money, and yet I'm able... And yet I am able to see the other point of view that some people don't apply value to.
Hang on. I got a question for Squidward here. Scooter,
No, but,
Scooter, did you just play back?
That one too.
Did you just play back a portion of the show off of cassette? I thought I heard you click the play button on like a cassette boombox.
Yeah, I'm old, so I'm technophobic and.
How old are you?
Huh?
How old are you?
I'm in my 60s.
No.
I'm in my 60s.
No, you're not.
But I have other contradictions I want to talk about. So,
are you still considering that a contradiction, though?
Yeah,
no,
I'm confused about how that was a contradiction.
Yeah, what was the?
I was half joking because he immediately, he's talking about he's putting the hypothetical in terms of himself, and he's talking about I don't have to own land. I don't have to own. It's just a joke. I know it's.
I was using a hypothetical situation to debunk someone else's argument.
Yeah, but you put it in terms of yourself, so
who cares? It's an example.
When the next clip shows
is this the equivalent of somebody taking somebody's Twitter post out of context and then reposting it?
Yeah,
it's not even. It doesn't even have to be out of context. I was providing an example of how value can be listed without having a numeric value to it, and also saying that that's not how I live my life.
I'm just half joking. Okay.
Half joking.
Then, so
half joking. I understood that.
So
that's zero funny.
Ask
what was the point?
Yeah, ask the other half where the contradiction is. You said, do you want to hear a contradiction?
Real contradictions. I have real contradictions.
You're a walking contradiction. I don't know. Maybe you're confined to a wheelchair. I don't know. Maybe you're a rolling contradiction.
Logic person. I don't think ANCAPs have a grasp of logic. I heard you talk say logical fallacies like I forgot, like evidence of absence is not absence of evidence. I heard Richie Rich. I mean, all these stuff are contradictions because it is evidence of absence. I mean, but anyways, I have real contradictions keyed up. Ready?
Nope. I'm sure not. Let's go to, I believe this is Jet calling. Jet, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I'm jetting around.
Are you gallivanting?
Heard you guys talking about how other people shouldn't be able to have anything to say about property, what you own and how you use it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that prompts me to call in about my favorite topic, which is the grand delusion. The idea that pretty much everybody, most people in this world, believe that certain other humans who are not morally or intellectually superior somehow have the right or privilege or whatever to tell you what you can and cannot own, use.
Yeah, that person was Dave Ridley at the beginning of the show.
He was saying something like that?
I think Jet's referring to, this organization, this institution.
I know. But it was also Dave Ridley at the beginning of the show.
Okay, well, I wasn't tuned in then, so.
Okay. For those just tuning in, it was Dave Ridley at the beginning of the show.
Okay. I'll listen to that later. Every hour that you guys are on the air, you have this opportunity to mention this thing in this way. And I'm not sure, did he say this similarly, that this delusion gang are just other people who have no more right to do anything than you or I? Did he was talking like that?
No, he was saying that I should be prohibited from owning a thing because he deemed it unnecessary.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we know that's false. It's like then anybody can decide that anybody should have or have not. I mean,
you would think someone with the credentials and liberty as Dave Ridley would understand that, but apparently it has to be learned again.
Well, on the one hand, when you expand it out to the nuclear weapon thing, it would be nice to be able to have a way to contain those people.
Why?
But then who and how and yeah.
Did they do anything to you to cause you to need to contain them? Is their sheer ownership of a piece of property like a threat to your life liberty?
Well, you even mentioned earlier, I think, that there's going to be someone who is irresponsible.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
that's the human condition, man. People drink and drive.
Enough away from these people.
People flag others with their firearms. People reach down for a penny on the seat of their car and swerve off the road. Right? People act irresponsibly all the time, and we don't deprive them of life, liberty, and property until they harm someone else.
Oh yeah. And I'm totally on board, except I guess this is the one topic that brings us to the question: how can someone have possession of something which could be devastating to millions of people all at one time?
Purchase it on the black market. I don't care how.
And I'm sure they exist right now, as a matter of fact. Plenty of them. But that seems to be the one topic, the one thing. Every other thing, even if it's a missile or a tank or whatever, every other thing seems to be able to contain. But my point is, in all events, who would it be that has the moral or intellectual superiority to be able to say whether you can or you can't?
Well, according to Dave Ridley, it's Dave Ridley.
Oh,
the short answer is nobody.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to call in and just say, hey, if you wouldn't mind, once every hour, just mention that these are just other people. They have no more right than you or I to tell us to do anything, what we can have, what we can do. And it just bugs me when I see people falling into this thing. Who should we vote for? Who should we elect to be able to tell us what we can do? And I'm going, nobody.
It bugs me more when I hear it from somebody with liberty credentials.
Well,
I expect that from normies and muggles.
Maybe he was just bringing up the topic. I'll have to listen to it as far as a topic of discussion versus something where he really felt.
I don't know. If he was only doing it as a topic of discussion, he was very well convicted.
Okay. Well, so my question to you guys is, do you guys feel threatened there on the air as far as being able to say things like, these are just other people, why do we pay attention to them? They have no more right. I mean, would you be afraid to say those things specifically because of repercussions?
No.
No, I mean, we say stuff like that all the time. but I think it's kind of overkill to say it once every hour.
And this is also the Sunday show. We try to lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the entire gist of this show is exactly that point. Maybe we don't specifically spell it out that, like, yes, government people, bureaucrats, whatever, they're all people like you and me, but that is the gist of this show.
Goons, tyrants, despots, parasites, thugs, mafia, gang,
it's right there
idiots,
on the
liars,
list.
thieves.
We have your alternative words, but here's the thing, Jet. Much like Forkfest, where no one is in charge, and being a live call-in program where you can call in and talk about anything you want to, you're a longtime caller, and you like to talk about this specific topic, and that's great. If we start doing it, then you're not going to call us anymore, and we want you to call.
No, I would love it.
This is your shtick, and so you should call and talk about this as frequently as you want to.
Well, it has to be germane to the to the conversation.
My point is, Nikki just said that you talk about it all the time, but actually, I listen all the time and I never hear it. I never hear what
because we don't use the same exact language as you're using, but it is a big common theme throughout this show.
Yes.
And there is so much more. I know this is like your favorite topic, but there's so much more to freedom and liberty. Like, there are so many things to talk about. If we were to talk about that every single show, one, it would kind of get boring.
No, not talk about it.
Or yes, say the phrase that you want us to say is kind of what you're saying. But there's so much more to talk about. Like, there is a lot of content to cover.
I don't know how it would have been germane when we were talking about the bet between me and Ricky from the Commonwealth. Right, like that had nothing to do with government goons or despots or whatever. That was just a bet on where we foresee things going in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
No, I'll tell you why I keep harping on this. And that is because I know that freedom and liberty, the concept, begins in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And I know also that most people don't understand that these are just other people who have no more right than you or I. Most people, as I mentioned, understand that they somehow magically do have a right, and they.
Well, it's not magic, man. It's the guns.
The delusion, the grand delusion.
Like that dude in Thailand, if he was on equal footing with armaments as the king of the country, right? That could have gone differently. But the king has people willing to commit violence on his behalf against this otherwise peaceful individual.
My point is, people will not get to that point of equal footing until they understand that, oh, wait a minute, this guy is just another human. His blood runs red, his poop stinks. He's pretty obviously, being a politician, they're not all that smart. But until the masses get to that point, and that's what happened at the beginning of this country, was they said, you know what, this guy might be a king, but he has no sense of what's going on here, and we don't want to do that anymore. We don't care. He's just another person to us, so we reject him.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Well, they rejected him, and the king sent soldiers to quash a rebellion, and they fought them off. And I think that's where the current generation is not going to overstep that line at this point.
Well, that's my only point, the idea that it starts in the mind, and if we can change people's minds to be in agreement with the fact that these people, just other people, are not morally superior, they're not intellectually superior, they have no more right than any of the rest of us.
Yeah, you can change their mind, but to act accordingly is going to put them in opposition with the king's soldiers.
Well, that's why I said, do you guys feel afraid to be able to say those specific words, that these are just other people? Why do we pay attention to them?
We pay attention because they're pointing guns. And you ought to know when guns are being pointed at you. We're not afraid to say it.
No.
And part of that comes with, not afraid to die, not afraid to be arrested, not afraid to go to jail.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it does take a certain amount of courage to sit in one of these chairs and talk about the topics that we talk about. It also takes a pretty big risk making ourselves targets, as evidenced by the Crypto 6 raids, plural.
Now, understand me. I'm not criticizing you. I'm just saying that somehow that's the underlying, the foundational message that is the spark point, if you will, of liberty.
Yeah.
We
agree with you.
Remember.
I just don't think you're going to get the masses on board with what's necessary to take the secondary step once their mind is changed.
Yeah, the changing of the mind, like there is no, as near as I can tell, and since I moved here in 2019, I've been surrounded by a number of people who have woken up, right? Their mind has expanded, or something has clicked, an epiphany, if you will, they've had. And I can't find a rhyme or a reason. I can't find even a common thread between myself or any two of these people. Like, if I knew what made people wake up to the reality of the situation, which is, as you described, Jet.
Usually it's personal firsthand experience.
Well, okay. But like, as you described, Jet, like getting people to wake up to the idea that these are just people. They all sleep somewhere, right? They have no more rights than any other human on planet Earth. Getting them to that point, I wish I knew how. Because you're right, that is the first step. So because I can't find that thing or any commonality that, like, even if we could get a small 2% of the population to wake up, that would be a huge win.
It's also going to end up like Cypher in the Matrix. You're going to wake them up. They're going to realize that they're still powerless to do much about it.
Why,
and just be resentful.
Didn't I choose the blue pill?
Right.
Right, yeah. So I've decided that instead of attempting to wake more people up, I am just going to serve via this show as a bit of a lighthouse, if you will, right? In a sea of crap. Right, we're the lighthouse going, hey, if you love freedom and you have woken up already, there's a bunch of people over here trying to do a thing.
Yep.
Well, what I've done is I've taken it out of, I've put it into practice. I've taken it out of my mind as just a concept. And when I deal with these other people, no matter what their station, title, costume, whatever, I just talk to them as another person that I'm meeting on the street. Now, many of them might not.
What do you do when a cop pulls up behind you and flashes his lights? Do you go on about your life as a free man living on the land? Or do you acquiesce to the violence that's in your mirror?
What I do is he must have stopped me because he needed my help. So I asked him, how may I help you?
Ah. Go on.
And I always ask them questions rather than answer their questions.
Okay.
So,
and he goes, now you owe me this much money.
Well, of course, I never speed, and I never run through stop signs.
Kind of besides the point.
I'm just running.
Like, I mean, if you never approach the fence, you're never going to get shocked.
Here's how this would go if it were me applying Jet's technique, right? Cop pulls me over, and he comes over. I'm like, how can I help you? And he goes, do you know how fast you were going? And so I want to ask a question here instead of answer his question. And so I would go, do you know how fast you were going? Then it becomes combative.
Yeah.
But if you were truly free, you would not even feel obligated to stop.
Right.
And when he rammed your car and tried to push you off the road, you would feel compelled to defend yourself against that aggression.
Right.
I know.
But no one will do that.
Well, few will do that. Those that are
the few that do it don't do it for those reasons.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just love to be there, like in 1775 when, was it Patrick Henry that came up with this, is life so dear, peace so sweet, to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery. Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others will take, but for me, give me liberty or give me death. I would love to know.
Yeah.
No,
people are going to watch the Super Bowl on 100-inch TV.
Well, that's true.
That's where we're at.
Too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good luck, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Jet, thank you for the call, man. We appreciate you.
Goodbye.
That was the weirdest jet call, I think.
Why?
It was.
It sounded the same as it always does.
Okay.
It was different, I think. Than
Right.
he's on point, right? He has
It's the
a bit of a
step two,
shtick.
man.
Yeah.
You can get people to step one. Yeah, I don't like paying my taxes. I'm still gonna pay my taxes.
603-6160. Still to come, the number 2 story. It's Free Talk Live. Don't go anywhere.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring signs into the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, hey. Who do you think Excuse me.
There is no video or audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't gonna make it.
Wait on account. Now. Wait a minute.
Forget the road.
Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. Ron DeSantis has dropped out of the Republican primary race ahead of Tuesday's contest in New Hampshire. The Florida governor has endorsed his rival, former U.S. President Donald Trump, for office. Ron DeSantis made the announcement in a video released on X, previously known as Twitter.
Trump is superior to the current incumbent, Joe Biden. That is clear. I signed a pledge to support the Republican nominee, and I will honor that pledge.
The Florida governor had been trying and failing to appeal to two opposing groups of Republicans, those who supported the former president as well as those who disapproved of him. He came in second in Iowa but trailed far behind Mr. Trump, and he was expected to come third in New Hampshire. Former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, is now the last Republican standing between Donald Trump and his hopes of running for president. A White House security advisor says Houthi attacks on ships in the Red Sea are attacks on the entire global economy and not just against the U.S.
The world is standing up and saying they won't tolerate that.
Speaking on ABC's This Week, White House Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner said while the U.S. had taken retaliatory actions, diplomatic steps are also being taken, which include the UN's condemnation of the attacks. Feiner also noted Saturday's missile attack by Iran-backed militants against an American airbase in western Iraq. He said the White House will have further comment, although he repeated the Pentagon claim that many, if not most, of the missiles were shot down before they reached the base. Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, has been diagnosed with skin cancer. It comes following her treatment for breast cancer, and she is the third member of the British royal family who is suffering from ill health. The Princess of Wales is recovering from abdominal surgery at the London clinic, while her father-in-law, King Charles, is preparing to be treated for an enlarged prostate. Ollie Barrett has more from London.
Well, Princess Catherine is said to be doing well. We do expect that she will stay in hospital for around a week longer, and then we're told that she may well not be able to carry out any royal duties until around Easter. The King will have that procedure on his enlarged prostate in the coming days as well. We know that here in the UK that's led to a huge surge in searches online about prostate conditions, so some health groups have been saying that this has already helped raise awareness of some of the conditions that men can suffer related to their prostate. But it also means that for now the King is not taking part in royal duties and engagements either, though we expect him to be back at work rather more quickly than Princess Catherine will be. But it does mean that out of the 4 senior royals at the moment, William and Catherine and Charles and Camilla, it is only the Queen who is currently.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Yeah, take that.
That was a little better.
All right.
Thanks for the effort. It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 is the telephone number. We had, two callers, but now we only have one on hold. We'll get to them in just a second. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
It's Nikki.
And Richie Rich.
Before we go on with the show, we still have to get to the number 2 story. But I want to say thank you to Justin O'Donnell. Justin O'Donnell is a silver level amplifier. What does that mean? What does it mean to be an amplifier? Well, we have a program called the AMPS program, which stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. You can find out all about it over at amps.freetalklive.com. Essentially, Justin O'Donnell gives us $5 a month because he enjoys the content, the hosts, the co-hosts, the callers, and the perspective of peace, liberty, freedom, and prosperity that we bring. And he wants to help us get this radio program onto more radio stations. Currently, we're on around 200 radio stations. We could be on 250, 300, 350 radio stations. Not out of the question. It's all possible, but we could use your help doing it. So if you do enjoy the program, please visit amps.freetalklive.com. Consider becoming an amplifier. There are some perks that you get. It's a Patreon-type setup. So there's little benefits, that kind of thing. But that's not why you should amp. You should amp because you love liberty and you want to spread the message. amps.freetalklive.com. Thank you again, Justin O'Donnell. We appreciate you.
Best use of your Liberty dollar.
As I believe Mark Edge coined the phrase, right? I believe it's the best use of your Liberty dollar.
Whoever said it first, they're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go to this unscreened caller. What's your name, please? You're live on the radio.
This is the Tom Budsman.
Hey, Tom.
Tom Budsman.
Hey, guys. Love the show. I was just letting you guys know. I hear you guys quote the Faces of Death movie quite often. You guys are aware that the whole movie's a complete fake, right? Even the monkey scene and all that is completely manufactured, right?
I only remember bringing it up one time recently, so...
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm a long-time listener. I've probably heard it, a few times over the years.
Okay, all right.
It always meant to let
well, then
you
it's
guys
well-produced
know.
snuff.
Oh, it was great. It even had me fooled as a youngster. I just found out later on.
All right. And so,
But,
was there more about Faces of Death that you wanted to talk about, or?
Oh, I guess that whole monkey scene was done with like a some kind of fruit or something, and they dived in. But yeah, it traumatized me pretty bad.
Well, go watch Cannibal Holocaust then, because they actually killed the animals.
I'll probably have to pass on that one.
This was prior to the no animals were hurt, and I'm pretty sure it was like the source for that.
Wow.
So like they killed some animals on camera. And it was allowed back then.
So there was no
That was
disclaimer
Nope.
that, like, at the end of some movies, they're like, no animals were harmed.
There
in the
was
making of
there was a
this."
disclaimer, but it was actually the opposite.
They're
This
like,
disclaimer
animals were completely harmed while making this. Okay.
It was before those laws went into effect, and I'm pretty sure that this particular movie had an impact on the creation of those laws.
I'm not a fan of laws as just a general thing, but that's probably a good one if we are to have them.
I totally agree, Nikki. It's probably one of the only ones I would probably support.
I'm a vegan.
Like, is it wrong to harm animals?
Well, it depends. I mean,
are you raising chickens for
Where do
your
you draw the
food?
line?
And you're going to chop their heads off so you can put them on the barbecue? That seems all right to
Even an
me.
animal on its way to the slaughterhouse should be treated with dignity,
I enjoy like when
I don't know if it makes the meat more tender.
Yeah, when I buy my food from like a local farm here in New Hampshire or something like that, I want to be assured that they are humanely raised and that they are grass-fed and not grain-fed. I don't want them eating high fructose corn syrup. I don't want them eating Monsanto crap,
plastic,
plastic, any of that kind of stuff, filler. I want
That's
them.
a preference, though.
It is a preference.
Okay.
But
not a mandate.
Right, but I'm not willing to say that should be the law.
Okay.
Right, I'm not willing to point the guns of government at other people and go, conform to my preference.
Absolutely. But if I seen somebody torturing a kitten, I might go ahead and shoot them.
I feel the same way about puppies.
Whose kitten is it? Are we allowed to own animals?
I'm just speaking with emotion, maybe not law there,
It's a good way to get punched in the face for attacking me for beating my kitten.
Yeah. I hear
Stay
you.
in your lane. Mind your business.
To you, Richie Rich, to even bring that up. You
Richie,
good
Richie Rich is special.
Pulling that card.
It's a property rights issue. If it's not yours, and you're trying to prevent me from doing something with mine, we have an issue.
Well, logically, you're probably on to something. That's just where my emotion might take over my logic.
No, I get it. This is why people get emotionally punched in the face.
I hear you, man. At least make sure it's on your property, then.
There you go.
Anything else tonight, Tom?
No, guys. Have a good one, man.
Hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for the call tonight. We appreciate you.
I'll hear an argument for you can't own animals.
Well, it's
right,
so like
right.
I mean, we could talk about that.
Tough,
like
it's tough.
Like I mean, I love dogs as pets.
Sure.
I do not love dogs as barbecue.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about dog fighting?
That's pretty lame. Yeah.
No, I'm not really a fan.
Not a fan, but would you stop it? Would you create a law? Would
No.
you physically stop people who are who have dogs that are fighting dogs from?
I might
letting
try
their
to
dogs
physically
fight?
stop them. I don't know if I'd use like the
On their
threats of
property?
government.
Okay.
I don't know if I'd be on their property. I guess I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, like
you got to go to their property to stop them from doing what they will with their other
I'll
property.
publicly shame them. I think people. We were talking about this a few weeks ago on a Wednesday show about how we should bring back like shunning people, right?
Sure.
So it's like, okay, we have this community. We uphold these standards of
happens
like
on social media all the time.
dignity and like rightness, right? Ethics, stuff like that. I don't agree with torturing animals. So if you're doing that, I'm not going to call the cops on you, but I'll probably tell everyone that you're doing it, and most people will probably disagree with you and agree with me.
Probably
and
not. Dog
will
fighting is a cultural issue.
Shun
So is
you
chicken
from
fighting.
in America. I'm assuming most people in New Hampshire. That's where I am. So
Maybe.
I guess that's
Sure,
relevant to my life. But
I don't know of any dog fights in New Hampshire. That's fair.
yeah.
What about
So-
chicken fights?
Not New Hampshire.
Because all those people were shunned from New Hampshire and they had to go
Maybe.
somewhere else.
Yeah, down south.
Yeah.
Like,
Would you go to a
with all-
bullfight?
No.
the only like famous case of like dog fighting that I can remember is like the Michael Vick thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Former NFL
Yeah.
player, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And like I understand he was in trouble, with the law, so to speak, over that. But I think the reason he did not see as much playing time later in his career was because of the shunning as a result of him being involved in this dogfighting stuff.
I would suggest that the time away impacted his athleticism as he grew older.
Sure. Yes, there's that.
Yeah.
But I think that there was shunning.
Sure.
By a large audience because he was already famous, right?
Yeah.
There were people who were like burning his jerseys. They were fans of his, and like
Yeah.
they're like, I'm not a fan of yours anymore.
That's-
And making a public display
Yeah.
of it.
But in his
people know.
community, he grew up with it. It was just a thing.
Right.
And he continued on with that tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go to this caller. I believe this is it Andrew in Tennessee?
Ian.
Hey, man.
That's correct.
You're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, I just want to say, Richie Rich has said that you have to be able to defend your property. So if I don't like you dogfighting on your property, then if I can come and successfully remove those dogs from you and in your life, then technically I own your dogs and your property.
Yeah, you could.
Because you are, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is what would keep you from, with your logic, being able to do something like that, because there's probably going to be more people willing to kill you over it and less people defending over it.
Maybe. Again, dogfighting is a cultural issue. So is cockfighting. If you go onto their property and try to take their dogfighting dog, right, you are going to be met with resistance.
Right.
And so now your life is on the line as well. Are you willing to risk your life for that of a dog or two?
Well, yeah. I mean, and I agree with that. But like I say, if you're doing something that's that the majority consider unethical, then you have to be willing to face the majority of people that are willing to come in and stop you for it.
Yeah.
And as far as your the nuclear weapon, if you're able to test the weapon, then you are causing harm to your neighbor, because that you cannot prove that whatever kind of radiation that it causes and fallout, you can't prove that that's not going to harm your neighbor. And
the burden would not be on me. If that would be a tort, the burden would be on them to prove damages.
Well, but what I'm saying is, how would you even test your weapon to know if it's even successful without being able to
I don't know. How did the government test it? They tested it prior to deploying it.
But the only reason we have nuclear weapons is because they stole from a bunch of people to be able to test them in the first place.
I don't care how they got it. They did safe, successful tests.
Well,
I don't think
we don't know that the tests were safe. Right?
I don't think that Richie Rich could by himself go and make a nuclear weapon and use ethical means to be able to create that weapon without causing harm to somebody.
Okay. And so at the point that harm is caused, you could claim a tort. But until that point, leave me alone.
Well, can you actually even make a nuclear weapon?
Personally, no. Not at all.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
But somebody can. They're creating them. The technology exists.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think one could successfully make a weapon without causing harm to somebody else, is what I'm saying.
Why not?
I feel like that you still are, I feel like you're going to have to, at some point, go against the non-aggression principle to
acquire the materials?
That weapon in the first place.
Why?
What's that?
Why would I have to violate the non-aggression principle to justly acquire the materials required to build a nuclear weapon?
One, you would have to have so many people that are on your side that would say, "Oh yes, we think that this is a good idea to make this weapon."
They already exist. Those weapons are in storage.
They're in production.
Well,
yeah.
Assuming they're not, because
why would we assume they're not
storage in the first place is because they had to violate the non-aggression principle to build those weapons in the first place.
Only because they're governments. But anything a government can do, the market can also do, and likely better and cheaper.
Okay, well, assuming that the government didn't steal from people to be able to build those weapons, how would you do it?
The technology exists. All we're talking about is price.
And yeah, there's all sorts of tech now. Like, if you didn't know how to acquire a part, you could 3D print it.
Right. The only thing stopping individuals from owning nuclear weapons is cost and the government prohibiting you from acquiring the materials.
Right.
If you eliminate the government, those materials will be freely available in the market.
Do you know that you could successfully create a nuclear weapon without violating the non-aggression principle?
I am confident that all the materials can be acquired justly.
That's like asking, do you think a nuclear power plant can be built without violating the non-aggression principle? Yes, of course it can. It's technology. It's just somebody building a thing to.
Well, I'm for nuclear energy. I was just trying to find a way to, to put it into perspective when it comes to non-aggression, because there was a lot of violations of non-aggression to build those weapons in the first place. Do we acknowledge that?
Yeah.
Yes.
The existence of government is a violation of the non-aggression principle. Yeah. The whole institution is a violation.
But the technology exists, right? The instructions exist, and everything else is just acquiring materials and following the instructions. Simplistically.
Well, but you would have to have I don't think one man has enough resources to acquire those things.
That's irrelevant.
And so you would have to have several.
Andrew, have you ever heard of a suitcase nuke?
I've heard of a lot of things.
The fact that an individual can't currently afford it is irrelevant.
Right.
Because at some point they might be able to, or someone, like Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk or Bill Gates, right, has the resources to acquire the materials and and can afford to pay the people to put it together.
So is that your goal, is to acquire a nuke so you can protect your dogfighting ring?
No, but if that's what it took,
if it comes down to
if it comes down to it,
this is only going to happen if he wins the dash bet with Ricky from the comments.
Really, the stakes are that high.
With
I didn't know dash was
with 15 dash in 2026, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just trying to figure out where we're going with this, But
well, you said it's impossible to build a nuclear weapon without violating the non-aggression principle, and I would suggest otherwise.
Well, because, at one point, Volkswagen built cars that if you ran into the back of them, they were notorious for,
I thought that was Ford and the Pinto.
Oh, was it a Pinto? Is that what it was?
Whatever.
Okay.
Either way.
Volkswagen.
But they also did an economic calculation, right? They said this is going to hurt this much people, and this is how much we're going to have to pay out in damages. Or
Wait, they
it's
did
gonna,
it on purpose?
Yeah. And then they went.
I've never heard of this.
Oh man, look it up.
Okay.
They did an economic calculation. They said like this many people are going to get hurt. We're going to have to pay out this much liability, or it's going to cost us this much more to recall the car and change the part. And it was cheaper to pay out the liability.
Right. So I just looked up. I just looked up suitcase nukes. And they
as if we weren't rated enough.
Yeah,
now this is in the search history.
Yeah, come on, Captain.
They do exist, and in fact, the smallest nuclear bomb built by the U.S. is called the W-54 fission bomb, and it was developed and deployed as early as 1961. I'm trying to look at here. It's got a yield of 0.1 kilotons. And a maximum range of 2.49 miles. It is approximately the size of a large suitcase.
Is that a
how many acres is 2.9 miles? I could own that much property.
Miles. That's a pretty big.
I think it's radius.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I could own 2.9 miles. Like there are people out there
easy.
with larger than 2.9 miles of property, like any rancher.
Well,
right?
I guess where my dilemma is now is that we have things that have been acquired through theft that we wouldn't necessarily have because people wouldn't really have the resources to be able to do it. The only reason they were able to do it in the first place is because they were able to, steal.
So I was mentioning this to Captain during the break. I know it's a dramatic representation, but if you haven't seen the movie Oppenheimer, watch the movie Oppenheimer. Because one of the principles like brought up in the movie, and again, I don't care if it's truth or not, was the technology pre-existed the run-up to building the bomb, right? It was, now we know this is possible, someone is going to do a thing, and if we want them to not do the thing to us, the United States, right, we have to ramp up our resources and our research to get there first. Right? Like the technology is out there. You can no longer stop it from existing. All you can do is prevent others from using it on you the best you can. And if that means like having a suitcase nuke of your own, then you ought to be able to own one.
Well, I'm not against nuclear anything. I just wish we could, use it for cars or something instead of
for peaceful means instead of destructive means.
But just know that with the same technology, someone else is going to build a bomb. And if you don't want the warlord to come knocking on your door with a suitcase nuke, saying like, this property is mine now, you're going to have to defend your property against him.
Andrew, thank you so much for the call, man. We appreciate you listening and calling. Feel free to call again. I just want to get to
the number two story.
Okay. Because we've been teasing it all night. I'd hate to end the show without talking about it a little bit. This from the New York Post. New York City neighborhood turned into giant toilet as migrants litter park with poop, leave cups of urine on doorsteps.
It's always the migrants. Just close the borders.
Migrants outside of an East Village intake center have been crappy neighbors.
Oh,
yeah, that's very funny. Since November, thousands of adult migrants have waited outside the former St. Bridget's School on East 7th Street and overflown into Tompkins Square Park to score a bed in the city's shelter system after their 30-day and 60-day stay limits expired. But the S hit the fan and the sidewalks and the streets last week when
it certainly did.
When the city parks department yanked a trio of porta potties from the park.
Oh, so the government's responsible for this?
Well, in many ways.
Okay.
The loos had become so filthy that the workers gave up on maintaining them, according to locals. Instead of like somebody being like, "Hey, we need to maintain these more frequently."
Yeah,
because
like, we're just gonna stop
because the volume has increased. Right?
Yeah. How about 10 porta potties instead of 3?
Right.
Like, let's start there.
There was a cup of what I thought was somebody's discarded hot chocolate.
So I took a sip.
That turned out to be not hot chocolate, said street cleaner John Cashvan. Cashvan. That's a weird last name.
I bet it belonged to 2 girls.
I'm thinking of Cash Cab.
Oh, okay.
Right? The game show. Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Fake
There's
taxi?
a cup of poop and Captain's like stuck on this guy's last name.
Sorry. Yeah. On warmer days, it can smell like a toilet over here, and not a well-kept toilet. In the past week, locals and volunteers said they've spotted cups filled with urine around the park's entrance near the former school, along with human-sized poop in tree beds.
Lemonade in the summer, hot chocolate in the winter.
And between parked cars. What was the old, like milk, lemonade, round the corner, fudge is made? Right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. Nope.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm not 12 anymore. I'm 6 now. Cut my juvenile sense of humor in half, apparently. Most of them want to pee in plastic cups rather than the ground, and they leave them on people's doorsteps, said longtime resident Garrett Rosso, 64, who said he spotted a dozen cups with urine.
You got to set it on fire before you, and then ring the doorbell if you're going to be leaving it on doorsteps.
Oh, man. That brings
Or
back
do it to
memories.
politicians.
Oh,
someone
even
that deserves
better.
it.
Yeah. Didn't we did a
It's like
story
the city
about,
hall guy, yeah. He was sick of people pooping in front of his establishment.
So he picked it all up and left it on the steps of the local government.
Well played, sir.
Yep.
One migrant had no problem taking an al fresco whiz on a tree Wednesday afternoon.
I mean, if you don't have a place to go, right? This is nature in action.
Yeah. The Post surveyed the stomach churning scene. Really? That's stomach churning? You've never seen a dude pee on a tree? Like, that's stomach churning? I mean, how wimpy do you have to be to...
Yeah, it's pretty mild.
It's
New York liberal, that's what you have to be.
The southeastern part of the park was also littered with spilled food in plastic containers. Oh, so it's New York. I've cut this part of the park out of my daily walk because of the filth, said neighbor Michael Bartley, age 73. There's several thousand people coming to this end of the park with no place to use the bathroom. And they do have a picture of a very graffiti-filled, less than clean, big-size porta potty, right? You know how there's like the little ones, and then there's like the ones that a wheelchair will fit in. That's what they have for the picture. If they're going to bring them here, the city should have some sanitation people here, he added. Cops are here, big effing deal. And like, I actually, if you're going to have government welfare, and then people come to take advantage of it, and you don't have enough of it, the onus is upon you, the provider, to make sure that there is more of that.
Be careful, they're going to start taxing the citizens to get more of that.
I know.
Okay.
I know where it all goes. But I'm just saying. We're out of time. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Richie Rich. Thank you to all of our callers and our listeners, of course. This has been Free Talk Live. If you missed any part of the program, find the archives over at freetalklive.com. Thanks and peace.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. Tired of the ever-inflating US dollar? You can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards. Plus, many of their gift cards are available at a discount. But what about paying your bills? Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account in case you